Welcome to another edition of Bottom of the Bill,
No.
ladies and gentlemen. Why
He
not?
wasn't ready. He wasn't set up.
Well, those are the best ones where you just kind of go right into it.
This is the
all over his feet, I feel
sloppiest
bad.
entrance ever, and it's supposed to be the 50th episode.
Okay, we're here, right? Let's do it.
All right, let's go.
Welcome to another edition of Bottom of the Bill, ladies and gentlemen. We got our boy Ben Strok here tonight
Pleasure.
of Widgeon. Bro, thank you so much. You're our first repeat guest, by the way.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here. I'm stoked.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. I kind of wanted to add on that we were just talking about Chicago and the music scene
Well,
and
hang
how
on, we
crazy
got
it is
cheers.
there. Oh, we got cheers first.
Okay.
The
Sorry.
50th cheers.
50th,
Hey, cheers,
50th
guys.
episode, guys.
Congratulations.
Pretty good.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
That's
Appreciate it.
Quite an achievement.
It's been a lot of work, and it's been a lot of planning and a lot of effort goes into what we're doing here. It's
Don't
like,
lie.
But for the last 2 weeks, though, I noticed you don't have a laptop or any questions.
I'm just fucking winging it these days,
He's
bro.
just winging
See
it.
what I'm saying?
A lot of work, he says.
Yeah, a lot of work.
Well,
I have a
mean,
question. When
I'm
did
putting
you-
in less work now.
When did you call Ben to be our guest for our 50th episode?
A couple days ago.
Yeah, there you go.
That was the confirmation. It's been really scheduled for like 5 months.
Yeah.
Oh, it has.
But it's a case where, like we talked before,
Uh-huh.
we have.
We talked Janet.
Yeah, I'll say
Yeah.
Janice.
Janice, yeah, Janice.
I fucking forgot about Janet.
Yeah, exactly. That's how great of a job. That's how great of a job she does, and we're still looking for a replacement, but the COVID stuff's made employment tough. It's hard
Yeah.
to get good. It's hard to get good. Resource planning in place, and it's just a challenge we're working through. And so
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you feel like it was a couple days ago, Bill, but Anton had reached out. I
Oh, yeah?
got the emails forwarded to me.
Yeah.
We're working through. We got some logistical challenges.
I think you need to find a replacement for Janice.
We're
I really don't
trying.
like her tone and through email either. I think she's doing bad things for you.
This is a case where she's not necessarily proofreading, and it's some of the things that you think. You got to watch for tone when you write.
Does she know about Grammarly?
I've
gotta get her on.
encouraged a lot of resources, and
Yeah.
there's been nothing spared to try to help her, improve in those kind of areas. And we've been extremely supportive, and I'd like to see everyone succeed in the organization. But unfortunately, this is a case where there's not a lot of momentum. We're
That's
working
good.
through it. We're working through it.
Off the cuff,
Did
I
you
love
give her some sort of career ladder or anything like that? Or are you just kind of upset that she left because
Well, she hasn't left.
No, she hasn't left. That's more
She's
why
just
I'm
super
upset.
incompetent.
That's more
her
about why
pink
I'm
slip
upset.
ain't showing yet?
Look, I believe in chances. I believe in chances, and I think that there's potential there. It just needs unearthed.
Well, when you changed your name to Widgeon, how was that? Whose idea was that? Was that?
So we're going right in. I like it.
No.
Nice.
How did Janice feel about that?
Oh, how did she feel about that?
That's what I'm trying to say.
You know,
Maybe-
she was in Mexico on a bender against the non-travel protocol, so I don't really know how she felt.
Yeah.
And we haven't really talked about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Everybody kind of fucking sweeps that under the rug. That fucking Ted Cruz did that shit. No, not that
During
like
a blizzard in
yeah,
Texas,
during a blizzard
yeah.
in Texas and everything like that. But that he decided to go down there, and then his excuse was like, "Yeah, I was just dropping my kids off."
Oh yeah, of course.
In like a
Yeah.
Hawaiian T-shirt and the fucking I was just dropping them off in Cancun.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
That's
Yeah.
what happens all the time.
Everybody does that.
The
It's not weird. It's not
So ridiculous.
not unusual.
like the shit that they tell politicians just to say and like tell people like how dumb they must think that we all are.
Well, people
You know,
eat it up, though. I mean,
yeah,
where's
they
the
do.
where's the consequence? Like who was the lady who went? Nancy Pelosi, right? She closed down the
the
she
hair
closed down the
salon,
salon
or-
because she wants to get her hair done, but she's telling everybody
Like not wearing a mask or
she's
anything.
like telling everyone, hey, we got to be. Look, there's a lot of goofy stuff going on, a lot of behavior unanswered for.
Sure,
All
totally.
we can do is be the best version of ourselves for each other.
Yeah.
Because they're not doing it for us.
Yeah, they're definitely not setting a good example at all.
No. We've got to, we were supposed to be self-governing anyway. So I guess.
I just thought that it was so fun. The governor of Texas was like, this is what we do. We drop our kids
That's
off.
no big deal.
in
And he blames it
Cancun."
on his poor kids.
Yeah, I know, right?
It was-
Fucking scapegoats are
Like,
your
Come
kids,
on, man.
bro.
Come on, man.
I just love it so much. Telemarketer's calling me at 9 o'clock. God damn.
It's probably Janice. She's probably like, shit, I think there's something today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably Janice.
Yeah, probably is.
All right. Well, whatever I was gonna say about Chicago's gone in the wind now. So it
Oh,
doesn't
sorry.
really
Yeah,
matter
I didn't
anymore.
mean. I literally was
It's
trying
okay.
to make a joke about Janice, And then I asked that question. He thought I was like really trying to change the subject. I wasn't.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Let's get right into
Oh,
it.
I thought it was an artful segue. I was like,
Let's
damn,
stay-
Billy's about business, dude. Number
Yeah.
50.
No,
Let's go.
Yeah.
never am. Let's stay out of it.
Let's stay out of it.
Let's not get into it.
Yeah, Ben's got nothing to promote right now.
No.
What
no,
have
no way.
you? How are you doing?
I'm fine.
You're just fine.
I'm doing just dandy.
If you had a rate your stress level on a scale of 1 to 100, what would it be right now?
Right this second.
Yeah.
I mean, like at a 3.
3 out of 100.
Oh, out of 100.
Yeah. So 30.
Like yeah, 30.
Scale up.
But I mean, like if we were talking like stress level like yesterday or like
Yeah.
earlier today, then probably like around a 60 or a 70.
Oh, my God. What's getting you today?
It's just,
What's
bro.
happening?
Now let's get into
Yeah,
it.
come on, man. Hey, we're on a couch.
We're on a
couch.
Should
What's
I-
going?
should-
What's
should-
happening?
Should I be laying down for this?
No.
You might need to. I mean,
It pulls out.
I'm fine, bro. It's just like it's
Sure it does.
It does pull out.
It's
Pull out game is strong.
yeah.
nice. Excellent. Excellent.
I mean, everyone knows how it goes, man. Running a band is running a business, and you're trying to do the thing, and there's a lot of moving parts, and we don't have the money to outsource all the work that I feel needs to be done. So
Sure.
it all falls on me, and there's a lot of deadlines. I'm also traveling to Turkey in like 5 days.
I was say, I heard that last week, right? You're about to head to Turkey, so
yeah,
that's
so
got to be stressful.
That's stressful as shit, and
He's
really,
signing up for the Taliban.
what? That's
Anton joining the caliphate.
For the
dude.
he's trying out.
I'm
It's
trying
not-
out.
It's not his
Tryouts.
sign up list.
Yeah.
Just saying. I watched a couple of the videos that they
You watched
posted.
A couple of videos. Oh my
It
God.
kind of convinced me. I don't know.
So
work-
number
but-
50 is when you got shut down by the CIA,
right.
That's
The workout video that they did.
Yeah, I mean,
that shit's
sounds
so
like you get a really
ridiculous.
good exercise.
The guy
Oh,
that's just
boy.
like doing the dumbbell curl or whatever, and then he's just like, yeah, stick it up.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, this
Good
clip
Lord.
is gonna go viral and get us canceled at the same time.
Yeah,
Why?
So this is eating you up. So you've been getting eaten up, man. This-
Well, it's also I think just everything that has as soon as we get back from Turkey, we're playing like the next week we're playing up in Atlanta, which I just booked another date for.
What?
Which we'll
How's
announce.
that the first thing?
What
is it?
Columbus, Georgia, at a place called Legends.
All right, legends.
What's Columbus, Georgia like? Have you
it's-
ever been there?
I have passed through there. That's not far from.
Butts
there's
County?
a school right up there, isn't there?
That's you were saying there's a school there.
We were I looked it up the other day. There's no school there.
Really?
Like
What am I
Columbus
thinking
Tech.
of then?
I don't know.
There's no, I know what you're
Athens,
talking
I
about.
guess?
There's
Not
something. No, not
Athens,
Athens. It's further west, I think.
What-
But it's also either way.
That's great news.
Yeah, it is great news. It kind of it helps fill that weekend out for us. But it's just like I have to make sure that all of the promo material is sent to the club before I go to Turkey's. I'm not gonna have much internet access.
We need a fucking Janus,
So
No, you
yeah,
don't.
we need a.
No, you don't.
we don't.
No, you
Yeah.
don't. No, you don't.
It's not worth it. Anything.
Yeah. So it's just it doesn't matter. It's all boring bullshit. It's just a lot of stuff that's on my plate right now. So
No, but I think that's good for people that's listening, right? That stuff never turns off. So
Yeah,
you guys
it-
just finished an album release.
Yeah.
You just did a tour supporting it.
Yeah.
Now I feel like what the challenge from your perspective is what? I guess where do I cultivate additional momentum from here, right? Because you just got to a
Yes.
benchmark, right? So
yeah.
it's kind of like, hey, once I've achieved that or you've gotten through that process, then do you kind of feel like, and I'm guessing, so you can tell me if I'm wrong, but is the kind of question in your mind, hey, now what do I do from here, right? Because you're retrospecting, right? You're taking all these lessons learned, all these other things that came out of that experience, and now it's kind of like any big show or a festival or something. There's so much work that leads up to that point that when you get done, now it's like, now what? Sort of
Exactly.
feeling. It's
So-
like a hangover or a jet lag or something.
So you and I talked about this the other day briefly, and you asked like what the biggest lesson that I learned was.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
I kind of gave you like a fucking onslaught.
Yeah, you gave me
You know?
a couple things that you were taking away from that, but that was cool. It was good to see how you're thinking about it.
Yeah, and it's like I think that I put so much time and effort into, how do we build the momentum leading up to this release, and I didn't think beyond that. I wasn't like, okay, so what do we do? Like, how do we keep the momentum building once it's been released, right? So then after it's been released, now I'm like, okay, well, you're looking at the streaming numbers, you're looking at, the dates that you're booking, you're looking at the merch sales, you're looking at all the stuff, whatever traction to social media and website stuff, and you're looking at that and you're like, okay, well, there's some growth. Now, how do I keep the growth going? I found myself in this position where I was like, shit, I don't know. And then I had a discussion with Jen from Florida Music
swear
Blog.
to God, I thought you were going to say Janice.
No, not Jen.
I had a conversation with Jen.
One thing Janice knows about.
You were talking to Jen.
And she kind of gave me some good tips on how to keep momentum going on releases after the fact. So I started doing these lyric videos with a big story, with this paragraph long insight behind the song and how it was constructed and the whole thing.
Kind of like the digitalization of liner notes or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's that, but had I would have thought about this beforehand, I could have gotten someone that could have done like a really professional looking thing and done it in a way that I would have really envisioned it, rather than just me figuring this out last minute and pushing it out. Not to say that I don't like what what we're putting out. I think that it's good. You should go check it out.
Good
but
save. Good save.
But again, like being an independent band, there's a lot of resources and information that we're not privy to, that we're figuring out as we go.
Let me ask you though. So when you're going through that thought process, do you feel like though that maybe because of the fact that you're a growing independent band, that the fact that you are having to do all that stuff yourself, do you think that may work for you in a sense? Like, I always wonder, so when I'm getting into a new group or I find someone that I am really digging, right? That when I see that about the group, there's almost an additional incentive for me to have long-standing traction behind my interest in that group because of that. And so I'm wondering, hey, don't look at the whole scenario maybe and say, hey, it would have been great if I'd had someone to do all these things for me and maybe make it better, because there may be some kind of salt of the earth, like integrity behind you guys doing all that yourself that may work more for you. Yeah. Because people see that, right? People understand. I mean, I feel like especially folks that are really invested in music enough to where if they discover some of your music or they like it or it comes up on a playlist and they see that they're going to gravitate more to that, because they can say, hey, look, these people are putting their money where their mouth is on the effort side, and I get a sense of who they are because they're doing that stuff by themselves, because there's no other way that I would have got to experience it. So don't count that part out, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's definitely like the silver lining of the whole thing.
Doesn't make it easier.
Doesn't make it easier.
Doesn't make it easier. I'm just saying, hey, that's an attractive thing for a lot of people. For me specifically, I would say that it is.
Yeah, and with his content, you definitely know that he did it.
Yeah. Well.
So people are really gonna.
What are you putting out, Bill?
What am I putting out?
Yeah.
Some nasty key solos.
Yeah.
I still think about that album release, dude. I was wondering, so in that release, right, you guys played great, I thought.
Thanks, man.
I know listening last week, you guys felt like that was maybe your weakest show, so I'm bummed I didn't see the Tampa one. But
don't say we.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, the impression that you guys gave last week, that's what I felt like. And I was thinking, God, bummer, because I thought it was great. So if it was even more on fire, I'm sad I missed it. And I guess what I thought was a couple really cool things was the Stevie Wonder tune at the end.
Yeah.
Right? So that was very pulled and constrained. Like the whole song was very, very tight and like kind of had a nice lid on it, which I actually really liked because it was Living for the City, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, hey, tightening it down and keeping it very constrained felt really good. And at this point in the night, I was actually back in the green room, like getting all my crap together. And I was thinking while you guys were playing it, hey, the fact that it's pulled in feels really good. And then we got to the end where you had that really awesome solo section through.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, damn, son, like I need like 6 or 7 more moments like that in the set, because I thought, wow, I've known you for a long time.
What's up?
I've always, appreciated the things that you're doing on the keyboard. I thought that was just a very well put together, not just section, but the whole way you took it, twisted it, and just owned it. And I relate to what, I kind of went back and listened to last week, because Brandon was on there. I wanted to check it out. But one of the things that I thought was really cool you were talking about is like how you deal with like social situations in and out of the show. and you were like, hey, I really almost only feel comfortable like up there because I'm there and I have a purpose.
Yeah,
and, like,
that's the only way I feel comfortable.
yeah, and I
in
relate
people.
to that a lot.
Yeah.
And so one, I kind of heard that part of it, and I was like, oh boy, I really relate to that. But two, I saw it in the way that you carried that section.
Yeah.
It was like, boy, I'm really here, and this is what I do, and it's like all that tension was like released in that section for you. I felt like as a listener, and it kind of all made sense that you feel that way, and I felt that way about watching the section, specifically in that song. And there were lots of great moments throughout the whole thing, but that was like, it was the end, and it was kind of the culmination of it, and it was just really well played and done. And I was like, damn, okay. So I was like, I want that. I want more of that. I was hungry for it. I was like, all right.
Thanks a million for all the compliments. That was like I said at the end of it, like I have to get that. That's the best solo I've ever played in my entire life. Like
Oh, it
without
was
a
great,
fucking,
man.
Without
No, it was
a
great.
doubt, like just perfect.
It was just slamming,
Yeah.
and you guys supported him under that whole thing. And I know on a previous podcast, I don't know
With
when
Max.
it was, you guys were teasing that the guitar players
Oh, yeah.
never. It was the one with Max. Yeah, you
Yeah.
guys teasing that the guitar players never support the section under.
They don't build them up.
And I thought that one was funny because that was occurring, and you were slamming,
Oh yeah.
and it was just a good example of a really great moment in you guys as a band playing, but you just delivered it all the way. I was
Thanks,
like, oh my
dude.
God, all right.
Sean will never let that go. Anytime that I have a good solo on that song, I was like, yeah, the only reason you sounded good is because me and, well, it was Brandon, but
It
me
was
and
Brandon.
Aaron are fucking carrying you the entire fucking way. I'm like, yeah,
I mean,
you
let's
are.
be honest, fucking
You are.
Baba carries it.
Yeah.
Baba fucking carries it. But
Yeah, for sure.
But it was like I said, it was a good moment of everybody supporting that structure, and then you had all the it was like you had the wingsuit on,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and I was like, oh man, I was like, you had the wingsuit on for
I
sure.
really appreciate that. So what did you think about Anton's playing?
Anton's always awesome, man. You're awesome.
Anton whiffed it.
No, man, Anton's too hard on you're too hard on yourself, man. That's the thing. Like you play great. You've got lots of good ideas in your playing. You got to not be hard on yourself. I know everybody is, but
it's
What?
I don't know how to describe. It's just one of those things, man. Like you just listen, you just listen back to yourself, and it just is what it is. Like no one else is gonna have the perspective that you have of your own playing. You know what I mean? So
I've never gone back to tape and been like, I'm in love with what I'm playing. It's like that thing. I think we talked about it a little bit last time. It's that thing with Jerry Garcia, right? Like sometimes you go out and you play and you feel like, it was an awesome night, and you hear the tape and you're like, oh God.
yeah,
And other nights you feel terrible up there, and you listen back and you go, man, that wasn't what I thought I heard. Your ears trick your own perception of everything. It's almost not worth. I try not to listen too much, actually, because it's just.
well,
it's not worth it.
I listen. We listen back to some of
We
it.
never got to myself. I still haven't listened back
Yeah,
to it.
we'll listen to that at some point. But we listened back to some of the set, and I remember because I remember feeling really good about the set about halfway through it. But I think
You started getting comfortable as soon as Ben got on. We played the Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Another brick in
that
the
was
wall.
fun, man.
That
Yeah,
was great.
that was a
Well,
lot
yeah,
of
I kept
fun,
on
yeah.
pointing you like flat five. We fucking nailed it. It was
Yeah.
dope. I do remember that.
I want to hear
was-
some tape of that, man. That was
Yeah.
fun.
Oh yeah, we got it.
And
yeah.
I was like, it was so funny because you were just cracking me up the whole time. And I was like, the way that I had left the stuff set up, I wasn't really thinking ahead, So I was like sideways kind of in the corner. And when I was standing there, all I remember was we were playing and getting loose. And then I was like playing, standing up and like leaning all the way back. So I was upside down watching you play, like leaning back upside down.
That's hilarious.
And I was like, yeah, this is fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. That was a great night. My mom, my whole family was there.
Oh, great, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That set definitely got better as it went on, and I'll say this is a bit of like the way that I think about it is that when we play like the bar gigs and the cover gigs, I feel like unfortunately at the moment I'm much more comfortable in those scenarios.
Why is that?
He's so much better. It's
No.
ridiculous to the
Why is
point.
that?
The
Well-
point where you're just like, oh my God, you're so great and everything, and I take everything you say so seriously when you talk to me because you're like a god of music. And then we get on stage, I'm like, oh no, he's not. It's like the Emperor's New Clothes situation.
So let's unpack this a little bit, right? And then this is what I'll say is that I play those songs at the bar gigs
Right.
just about every night of the week. There's no I'm so familiar. I know exactly, like we've done every like scenario with those songs. We've botched them, we've nailed them, and everything in between of that, right? So I'm comfortable with it. But like with side hustle stuff, it's like when we do like, you know, up until recently we weren't playing these songs out at all, right? And when we were meeting up, we weren't rehearsing them. We were writing new material.
Yeah.
So you know, a couple rehearsals or whatever, and then we go out and we play them, and there's a part of me that's not 100% comfortable playing the material in front of people yet. There's a part of it where you're presenting your own music, and you want really badly for it to go over well, and you're putting an unrealistic expectation on yourself and the band to do something that, you know, whatever it is, like you want people to love it that much. And I think that kind, like when I'm playing at a bar, I really don't care what people think. I'm gonna do it. Like I just go into my own world, my own zone, and do my thing. I need to adopt that for the same thing.
Well, what is it? Yeah, that's what makes my kind of wheels turn. So you're going out there and you're playing like a cover gig, right?
Yeah.
And when you play the cover gig, you're delivering pieces of music that, for whatever reason, right? And maybe it's because it's not original music, right? You don't really care what people think. Like,
yeah.
That music has some kind of credibility, love it or leave it. The onus is on the original author.
Right, exactly.
You know? And then you go to play your music, and now the onus is on the original author, just like the covers, but you happen to be, or your group happens to be the original author.
Right.
You know, maybe find a way to creatively disconnect from that a little bit, because to be honest, like, it was something else I think you were talking about last week on the podcast with Brandon, right? It was a case where you were talking about, hey, one of the things that kind of throws you for a loop is like the chasing of that validation.
Yeah.
Right? And that was something I think it was like specifically how you phrased it. And I thought that was so interesting because, you know, whether you're looking for comfort on stage or success universally, right? Who do you know that got any of the things they're looking for from just chasing validation? I think there's like a kernel of that in a lot of people. Like, I'm sure in a lot of ways, if you unpack like Freddie Mercury's life, there was this long-standing chase for some kind of validation, right? Or Elton John, right? There was this long-standing chase for maybe validation in their personal life, or David Bowie, maybe the same thing. But the art wasn't necessarily probably for validation, right? And then look at just those three people, the music they created and the way they were able to deliver it. I feel like, you know, because I've played with you a bunch of times and I know you as a player, find whatever mechanism you can to peel away that like chasing of somebody else's validation.
Yeah.
And deliver the music that you wrote or that your group wrote because you think it's just important to deliver.
Yeah.
Not because it needs something in return.
Right.
Because that's where people get hung up. Like if you're delivering, or I think, and I'm not preaching here, I'm just saying like I've worked this out or trying to work it out in my own group and in my own head, is like you gotta, that's what people say, do it for the love, right? Maybe that's what that's about, right? Delivering it without any expectation of return, and then see what you get back.
Yeah, that's,
you know, if you give it and you're expecting something, you've already screwed yourself, I think, to be honest.
Yeah, no, totally. You're 100. And it also puts a responsibility on the on the audience too, which they don't want, and they don't, and they can feel, right. So it's like I feel like that's like a dynamic that is unfair.
Hey, can I see your drink real quick?
You sure can.
Yeah, you're gonna share that with me.
Okay. Are we doing
No, but I'm saying that's what you're asking your audience to do when you're looking for validation.
Exactly.
Like, let me see that drink. You're going to share that with me.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting here and having a drink together. And that's the functional difference. And I think people aren't dumb, man. People can feel that.
Exactly.
Even if it's not explicit, like the whole delivery mechanism of like music is so powerful. There are so many messages, like how you're feeling while you're playing, I think even can translate without a word spoken, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just body language. I mean, like, I think the way the notes or maybe the frequencies resonate, I think the way the room interacts, like everything's connected. Like music connects in this bizarre way, and I think it relays everything.
Yeah.
Regardless of like whether you intend it to or not, it has this funny way of, it's spiritual, right? You can't fake that shit. And I'm pressing you on this because I know as a player what you're capable of, and this is something that I didn't even think about until, and I really struggled with and have a lot of issues with, working to be a better player and self-doubt and those kinds of things. What made me turn a corner was when I was doing those lessons, and I talked about it a little bit last time, right, with Tony Smotherman.
Yeah.
And Tony was saying, hey, if you really are working to get better, you have to be okay with where you're at. And then that turned into, over the last couple years of kind of having received that like gift of knowledge, right, that turned into kind of what we're talking about now, is also give without expecting back.
Right.
And that's like also part of like what defines love, which is also something else pretty powerful. So I really think, man, incorporate that into, your approach. And I think like you'll feel different about what you're doing, and that will resonate with people differently.
I think you nailed it on the head for sure. I think that's like 100%.
It also frees you to be yourself, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you can be you. Like you can be Billy. You can be Anton. I saw you being Billy. That's why I brought this whole solo thing up, because you were you, man. It was completely you. You were moving, your hips were moving, you were feeling good, you were being straight up Billy, unapologetically.
That's what my girlfriend says all the time. And I was like, do I look happy when I'm on stage? She's like, you look like the happiest person ever to exist when I'm playing music. Yeah, that's how I am when I play.
Yeah.
Because I love it so much.
Yeah.
Maybe you just love it too much. Maybe that's your problem.
Well, no, maybe
it means way too much.
I know. That is the problem. The problem is that
the validation thing, like Ben's saying, I think that's it.
The validation, the validation, the validation thing comes from me attaching my entire identity to like my ability to play music,
bad. Which is silly because look at you. You're a friend. You're a
Don't make it weird though, right?
50.
But you're friends. Right. You're a friend. You're a
reptilian. Confirmed.
You're a reptilian. You're a reptilian. You're
I'm a brother. I'm a son.
You're a son. You're a brother. You're a companion. You're a lover. You're all these different things to these different people. Your identity isn't. That was like when, Herta Watts wrapped up, right? Like, I had to deal with a major sense of identity.
Yeah.
Because I had put a lot of that stock in that same place.
Yeah.
And, I've never been more free as a musician, and I've learned a lot since then, both about myself and music and playing and working to improve and all these kinds of things, but didn't come until, some of what I'm kind of encouraging you to ask, because those are things I ask myself. It's not like I'm sitting here saying, hey, you need to do this for yourself.
No,
all I'm saying is those are questions that until Tony was challenging me to, like, accept where I am, it was more than I think just like where I am as a player, right? It was like, accept where you are if you want to grow, and then grow. And that turned into, for me, learning how to give without expecting anything back. And it's not because it's not important to me. It's because it is important to me that I want to give it without expecting anything back. That's a serious paradigm shift. And I think it will free you a lot, and it will make you feel like, hey, when I go out there and I'm Anton, that's good enough. Because you know what? No matter what, that's all you're going to be able to give anyway.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to be able to give something that you don't have.
Right.
Right? And so if you get comfortable giving who you are and what you have, I think it'll make a huge difference. And that's made a huge difference, like in our group, right? Like Brandon was talking about a few of those kind of like thought processes. We had a couple shows that we really struggled through. Like especially we had some really good ones at first, and then we had some ones that we really struggled. We had a good fall last year, and then we got into the spring, and we had a show at a festival that we felt really good going into, and we really struggled through. And that's when a lot of those shifts consolidated as a group for us. And we had a lot of really high moments since then, and I think it's because we've all kind of, in our own ways, fallen into some thought process along the lines of what we've been talking about. And there's also trust. When you can be Anton and Billy's being Billy, then nobody's worried about being anything.
Never worried.
No one's worried about being anything.
Right.
Just go on stage, flip the whole audience off just to start, and be like,
Just to start, yeah.
I'm
That'd be
just
good.
saying, and then just be like, fuck
Now,
you.
'cause now you're starting
I'm gonna
at a
play
deficit,
guitar.
so,
no,
like-
you're gonna be like, I don't care about you right now. This isn't about you. This is about me.
Yeah.
And then flip them all off.
Well, now we're
Smoke
taking
a
it to a whole different.
Smoke
we're
a
taking it to
cigarette
whole
on
different
stage.
Place, yeah.
Security's
A whole
like,
different
no, you
place.
can't fucking smoke on here. You'd be like, no. You stay down there.
Yeah.
And then just rip it. See what happens.
What you
Oh,
know?
Lord.
You know.
I'm not condoning that set of advice, but
No.
yeah.
You should get Ben to co-host with you while I'm gone.
What?
You're crushing the interviewing game right now. I
I
feel
don't know.
like I'm on your podcast right now.
That's not a bad
No,
idea.
that's not the intention. I know, like I said, I know kind of where you're at, right, and the kind of things you focus on and work on, and what your influences are, and the only thing that I think keeps you locked up is yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that's easy to talk about here, like on the couch. It's a whole different thing to do. But look, I mean, hopefully that kind of thought process, like if you can find whatever piece, maybe you take a part of that and you make it unique to you, and you kind of change that advice and make whatever it's going to make sense to you, it may pay off in the other things that you were talking about at the beginning of this podcast, right? Like some of the way that you work through the challenges of carrying the weight of the administrative pieces of the band, right? Maybe it pays off in some of these other things that, because all those things, if hey, you feel like, hey, this stuff needs to happen, all of that is also pulling away at your ability to focus on being the best Anton that you can be.
100%.
And so maybe you can find a middle ground. It's not that stuff's going to go away. Maybe your dynamic doesn't allow for that, which is totally fine, right? That's a whole different like band conversation, right? Sometimes you got to be fine with that, and that's totally fine as well. But that makes it even more important that you find a framework or like a thought process that allows you to not worry about the things you're worried about when it's time to play music.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I know what you're capable of, man. I've seen you in all kind of different settings and all kind of different shows and all that sort of stuff, And, the mental game is difficult until you don't care about the mental game.
Yeah.
Like, to hell with that game, man. Like, what the fuck? It ain't doing you any favors.
Yeah,
it's
no,
not
it's
doing
definitely
you any
not.
favors.
That's for sure. Sure.
Self-doubt is a nasty monster.
Yeah.
And I don't have it all locked down, but
Nobody does,
I
man.
at least feel like, for me personally, I know how to think about it now.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a monster, right? Until you know how to, like, it's like kids are afraid of the dark till you learn where the light switch is.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't mean that, it still doesn't freak you out a little bit, but you know where the light switch is. Find your light switch, man.
That was deep.
I'm just thinking about making T-shirts that just say, be the best Anton you can be.
There you go, man. And then now everyone's going to I would wear it every time and just embarrass the shit out of you when I come to play. We'll be like, yeah, be the best Anton.
If it gets fucking
I want to be the
people-
best Anton I can be.
I want to be the best Anton I can be, too. Like, so bad.
Oh, my God, dude, that's awesome.
If it gets people in the door, bro, I'm for it. Hey everyone, just want to take a second to talk to you about one of our favorite music venues, Blue Jay Listening Room. Blue Jay is a space for true music lovers where every ticket is a backstage pass. Silence your cell phones, enjoy a nice glass of wine or craft beer, and be part of an intimate experience unlike anywhere else in Jacksonville. Hear national and local artists sing their original songs and share the stories behind them in a space carefully curated for the premier show-going experience. I personally have seen some of my favorite shows here, as well as having played with some of my heroes. Not only is Blue Jay a wonderfully unique experience, it has become a staple in the Florida music scene. Mention Bottom of the Bill on your next visit and receive 10% off your tab. Blue Jay is located at 2457 3rd Street South, Jacksonville Beach, and be sure to check out www.bluejayjacks.com for news, ticketing, and events.
See, but hey, watch it. You're slipping back.
Yeah.
That's the thing, man. Don't worry about that.
That I know that was kind of
That's
the whole
the
thing.
thing, yeah.
As soon as I said that, I was like, and that's the problem right there, right?
But you know what that is, man? That's like everyone has it. Like, and some people have it in like comedy. Some people have it in like self-deprecating comments. Some people have it in like, there's a myriad of ways that stuff rears its head, right? But that's the self-doubt part of the ego coming after you.
Yeah, totally.
Don't let that shit come at you.
Yeah.
It's just got no business in your life, and it's got no business in the communal experience of music.
Yeah.
It's got no business there. And that's what makes those bands you really love so special. Any band you can think of, any single
Foo
band.
Fighters.
Well,
They're the best of that.
well,
He doesn't give a fuck. I love when Dave Grohl comes out on stage. He's like, I'm fucking doing this show.
I mean, his background is that punk rock kind of mentality.
which is really don't give a shit what people think.
Yeah, and then he kind of just carried that over and started writing, pop rock hits, and just carried the same attitude with, different.
No matter what
world.
anybody says that he can't solo or that he wouldn't be famous if it wasn't for Kurt Cobain killing himself.
He's a great songwriter.
I'm just saying, like he's still just like is doing that all the time. And
Yeah.
I think it's great. But I've got another point about this is, I don't ever feel any of those feelings that you feel. The bigger the crowd or whatever it is, like I get excited about it. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess my thing is I want to like prove myself, I guess too. For some reason, not really like that though. I just get so excited to play.
Yeah.
Like I just fucking so happy that people are there that I could do that for them.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. Not to do it for them, you know what I mean, but to perform.
Yeah.
And so that's what I don't get nervous. I get like like I want to do it really, really badly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I fuck up, I'm like, all right, I'll get them again.
Yeah.
But I never get that way at all.
It's just performance anxiety. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to. Just one of those things where it's just like the self-doubt thing, knowing what you're capable of doing, and then realizing that setting that limit as the expectation, and then realizing that you're not living up to that limit in the moment, and then all that
expectation again, didn't it?
all that self-crippling kind of.
Well, it's like what you said before too. You want people. You were saying, I thought it was a really good like glimpse into some of the things that you were wrestling with. Is like you're like, hey, I'm out here and I'm working hard and I'm practicing and I'm working on these things, and I can't remember exactly how you said it, but one of the things that was really interesting was like you're like, hey, when I'm up there playing, you were saying you want people to know that you take it seriously.
Yeah.
And you want people to know that you're spending those hours in the woodshed. And you want people to know, and that's I think where you were saying the validation was coming from.
Right.
And I thought that was really interesting because almost ain't nobody gonna care.
Yeah. I know.
Like if you look at like, golly, there's so many levels of insane. Like I was thinking about this on the way. I was listening to music on the way here, and I was listening to Erotic Cakes. You ever listen to that album?
No.
Oh, man. Guthrie Govan. So sick. This guy's like one of the most ridiculous
he's
virtuoso guitar players. And that was one of his, I think it might have been his first like solo album. Like I'm on the scene and this is what I do. Like that guy's got to make everybody feel bad.
Yeah.
like I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, whoo, like, gosh. But at the same time, it just kind of makes you laugh because you're like, there are so many different perceptions of outstanding depending on who the listener is. Meaning there are a lot of people that could give a crap about how fast and clean and extensive those licks are and all the things that are being used musically going on, because there are a lot of people that really just want to go see XYZ band. And that band, for whatever reason, which will be as justified, right, is doing something for them on a different wavelength.
Right.
And there are people that would say, hey, all that fancy stuff is great, but have you heard Derek Trucks play?
Right.
So there are so many different ways people value that validation that you chasing that validation is really almost a waste of time.
Yeah, 100%.
Because who defines what that is? Like it's such like a crystallized perspective. Like, there's a million ways you can look at that. And like overriding like your perspective on it will start to impact everybody else's, and they may already be perceiving that. We don't even know. Like, right? You don't even know. There's going to be somebody out there watching you play thinking, damn, man, I want to be the best Anton that I can be
if
on the
anybody
shirt.
is watching this, next time you see Anton, just being like, you're doing a good job.
No, don't do that.
Say that.
Don't
Just
do
say
that.
Don't let that eat
Don't
you.
do that.
So don't let that eat you. But hey, like I said, nobody's immune from that.
Don't do
Billy's
that.
not immune to that. I'm not immune to that.
I'm not immune.
Right?
To
I
it,
was
no.
telling you a few minutes ago, right? I'm consumed by self-doubt and drive. And part of that is chasing away my demons. But what I'm trying to do is day at a time is go, hey, look, you know, kind of like that thing from Tony is, you know, you got to be all right with where you're at. And when I get on stage, I am. You know, I'm not a Guthrie Govan kind of guy. You know, maybe one day that'd be great.
Yeah.
And I'm not a lot of other things, and a lot of other, you know, elements. But I sure as hell am Ben.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's got to be good enough. It's got to be good enough for me if it's going to be good enough for anybody else.
Right.
And I think, you know, you got to just be the best Anton you can be.
Yeah.
Best Anton you can be.
So let's talk about what you got going on now.
No, I just
this
thought
a
it was
fucking
great, man.
therapy session.
I'm sorry. I
That's
just not been able
okay.
to stop thinking about it since last week. I mean, I thought it was so good to hear all those different perspectives and like what Brandon was bringing to the table on how he feels about things. And he and I feel like see things in a very similar way, and I think it's been reflected in some of the things we have going on.
Yeah, totally. So you guys just put out a new single.
We did. Let Me Fade. It came out however,
Oh,
a week and change ago.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt. I must have listened to that song like 10 times editing the
Oh,
video.
no.
It was so good.
Oh,
Yeah.
no,
I loved it.
Now I'm like,
Yeah.
now tell me back everything I just told you.
I
No,
really,
bro.
really, really
It
liked
was-
it a lot.
I was-
love how fun and happy. Well, that's just kind of my whole fucking style of music anyway. So I just fucking love how happy and fun it is.
No, I
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I thought it was obviously the song is great, but like from the perspective of like, you know, having produced, you know, a couple of albums at this point and then listening to what you do.
And then
you took
that
this
was
on
recorded at
yourself,
home, yeah.
man. Like, and your first time doing it at that capacity, it's like very impressive, man.
Oh, thanks.
Like,
I mean, we could have done it without Chris. So big shout out to Chris Underdahl.
Oh,
Dude.
so would Chris mix it or what? What
Chris recorded the drums.
Okay.
And then sent the raws back for the drums.
Okay.
We had done drums in another take. So we had recorded a lot of the different pieces, or like the bones of it, right? We had kind of done this sketch of the album.
Yeah.
And then we went to go do the drums. And the engineering and everything was great on it. We did it at 1904 with Eric, and Eric's...
Stallion.
Yeah, Stallion
Yeah.
is right.
He's a stallion.
But I think when we went to do the capture, and it's really our fault, you know, I think we were so ready to do it, we just kind of set up and started going through.
Yeah.
And when we got them back, the tracks were fine, but there was a space in like the perception of the tracks. So when you got all the drum pieces and you brought them together, you could hear that it was in a non-conditioned room, you know, and you could feel like space that I wasn't able to weed out, which in and of itself is not a bad thing. But I didn't feel like I could get the drums to have like the recordings of the drums. The playing was great too, which was the unfortunate part. It was more I couldn't get the tracks to hit, right? Like I couldn't get the fidelity that I was looking for based on the reference tracks I was, you know, being inspired by and that kind of thing. It just didn't they weren't going to work.
Yeah.
Just bottom line, it wasn't going to work. No fault of the process. It just, those takes weren't the ones. And so then we were trying to figure out what to do. And we found a home for tracking the drums with Chris. And we went through and did it, and he passed back one, which is the single we released. And we were like, man, all right.
So you guys did the whole album on drums there already? Like it's all
yeah, so the
recorded?
drums are all done. Everything's done. All the framework was done. And then because we've been working on this thing for got to be over a year now.
Yeah.
Yeah, same with us, man.
You know, we kind of got it all like sketched out in kind of the format that we wanted and started laying things down. And then once the bones were in place, what was cool about having like kind of botched drum tracks was that we had all the like feel to kind of build from.
Right.
So even though the drums, I think Brandon did a really cool job refining those. Like he really retook his approach even from the first session to the next and locked it in. But there was enough of a framework for our imagination to hear drums and then say, hey, look, we have like the skeleton. Now how do we build up the skeleton? And then when he went back in and refined the drums again with that in place, it was like, okay, bones. Then it was like muscle and tissue. And now we're like
Bones again.
Yeah, now it's like, okay, well, now we've made the bone stronger. And now we've put kind of connective tissue and muscle on it and some skin on it. And then now we're like dressing it.
That's why I
which
feel
is cool.
every album should be is like you record the drums first, yeah, and then everything on top of it, right?
Drums and bass first together, I think.
Of course,
absolutely,
right?
yeah.
And then at the very end of it, just re-record drums and bass again and put it and replace it.
If it's all to a metronome, I mean, that was the thing. We had a good, like, I was really pushing for us to do everything to a metronome, because when we did like some Herta Watts recordings, we didn't often do stuff to a metronome. And I think 1 or 2 times we did, and I saw the benefit in it from like being able to go back and readdress things.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, shit, we got to do, make sure we do it right and get everything in a metronome and nice. And so we did that. So we've been able to sit on these and evolve them. And there's been like changes. Like in Let Me Fade, we went back, like even after the drums, right? Max and I came by his house and we played everything. I did like a sub mix of just the drums, the bass, the guitar, and like a scratch vocal. And then we went through and like said, hey, like, this part needs something, or this part feels like it's falling away. And so we started building in all these layers around it to support what we felt like were really good, like foundational pieces. And then by the time we got done, we were in a place where we were real happy. So that was cool. But just, it's been like a long journey, but because it's done at home, it doesn't cost us much.
Right.
To get in a place where we're happy with it. And it comes back to what we were talking about with the guitar and all the other stuff, right? If you're in a place where you're happy with it, hopefully, I don't know. I mean, hopefully people connect to that.
Yeah.
And you know how it is. You're only going to be so happy. Like, as soon as we get it done, we're like, all right, let's go to the next one. But, I mean, I'm proud of these ones. And it's because we took our time and we, there's something cool about doing as much of that in-house as possible. Because you end up with a mix that you like. You end up with a master that you like.
Yeah.
Instead of giving it to somebody and then, like, you're like, oh, my God, there's, like, this weird flanger on this part.
Yeah.
Like,
cross your fingers, then having to email back and forth. And
just be able to just chill out and work on it and sip a drink and get it to a place where you really like it, which I'm not advising mixing and drinking.
100% do that.
Yeah. But getting it to a place where you can be like happy with the stuff you're doing. That's kind of where we're at. So the first one's done. It's out there. It's on all this stuff. Go check it out. Hopefully you dig it.
Definitely do. It's amazing. It's a great track. It really is.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
And now we're mixing and mastering. It's a cool track. I mean, it was the craziest one. So that was the thing, is we were like, what are we going to put out? Like, we're going to put out like a short one or a clean one, or like, and we're like, no, dude, we're going with like the fun, crazy, mash it up with like Talking Heads and
very
Fish and,
fun.
like, it's all this shit with weird vocals and stuff going on.
For sure, that's my favorite part, is at the end when you start doing the Fish vocals and stuff. Like with
it's
Max.
like a round.
Is Max screaming it, isn't it?
I did all the screaming and all the vocal rounds.
Well,
so
I'm
it's
so
the
sorry.
first.
I thought it was Max.
It's the first and second verses done in like an off-time round with all this delay and like swells. So it's like the first 2 verses talking, like in a round together.
Okay.
And then leading into it, there's all this crazy Talking Head screaming and.
Yeah, I really liked. So when you guys were in that, you guys could kind of break it down like a jam section, and then you start talking over the music, and it starts
that's like a Remain in the Light kind of thing. I mean, I love the freaking Talking Heads, man, and they do some cool stuff with all the polyrhythms. And Brandon freaking brought all this crazy aux percussion into that track. So there's like all like the 2 sets of different like bongos and congas and tambourines and triangle and shit that's all mixed in there. If you've got it on headphones and you're like
listening,
really geeking out, like it's got these cool layers to it that like as you listen, that song's cool because I feel like as you listen to it more, there's like all these different things that kind of like pop themselves out to you. So it's like a choose your own adventure. Like whatever you're tuned into, you'll be like, oh, there's more here than I thought there was.
No, for sure, man. The first pass through that I gave it was I hate doing it this way, but it was when I saw that you guys released it, it was the only option that I had was on my phone, and I was like, okay, this sounds cool. And then I put it on in my car, and I was like, oh, now I can hear all the stuff going on, like for real, and I can hear like a lot of the production choices that you made. As far as like, there's a lot of like panning things that was happening, especially on the vocals when as when you're talking, as it continues, it kind of starts to fade more in like the background, kind of.
Yeah,
it almost sounds like
it's like left and right.
Exactly.
Each verse is on one side and the other, and then as the verses wrap into the last like section.
Yeah.
I have them like hard left and right, and as it folds back into the end of each, because they're in a round, so they end at about the same time, right? And so as they're ending, they come back to center at the very end, and they pull away, which pushes the rest of the song from the center out into the previous mix of the pan.
This is sorry, go ahead.
It was just something, they're like Jimi Hendrix did a lot of cool shit with panning, and I'm a big fan of his, and like multiple guitars going on and multiple instruments of the same player, like layering and panning, and I just think it creates quite frankly, a pretty awesome psychedelic experience, and that's been a huge influence on me my whole life, and Talking Heads is a big influence on me, and kind of that, like, you know, We Are Who We Are stuff we were talking about, you know, they're a big band for me that's like, yeah, well, they were definitely, especially at the time, right, they are definitely them.
Oh, yeah.
And so I wanted to represent that in the mixing, and also, like, the choices of how this stuff sounds. Like, so when you would put it on, it's going to feel like, hopefully, if folks are fans of different elements of those kinds of things, or David Bowie, you know, it sounds comfortable from a mix perspective too, in that way, or a mastering perspective, I guess. Yeah,
for sure. And that's the kind of stuff that I really love to, like, dig into when we're working in the studio. Is like we were doing that on, especially on Billy's tune on Streetwalker, where there was like all these different sections where it was like,
because there's no vocals, it's all instrumental, right?
Yeah. So you got to make every part really, like, do what it's got to do. And a lot of things where it's like, okay, well, we have this kind of like ascending synth line here, so let's make it pan as it's going from one side to the other, and then, you know, the circular thing, and it's like, okay, well, now we have, you know, this guitar solo going on here, so let's, like, put it up front, and then the keys are going to be, you know, real down low in the mix, and then off to the side, right? And then it's like, as the guitar solo goes, the keyboards or the piano gets a little bit louder and louder, and then as the guitar solo ends and the piano comes in, or the synth comes in for a solo, it's like the guitar opens up and the synth becomes, like, it slowly becomes the center thing. Yeah. Those little kinds of things where it's like, it creates a really different experience on the listener's end that they might not even be fully aware of, you know?
I think too, like, one of the things that we started to experiment as we went through, so we didn't know, you know, I've been trying to push myself to learn a lot through this process.
Yeah.
I just think I think it's really fun. And two, I think the creative piece you can put on it, if you're learning about some of these things, you know, it gives you some more freedom, and it certainly saves you a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Not that paying for really good ears and that skill isn't worth it. I think it is. I'm by no means an expert, right? But what I thought was cool is, you know, learning about different frequency ranges. So, like, stuff that sits in a kind of similar place. Like, there's some elements of the drums and the keyboard and the
guitar all day,
that sit all right there. And so, like, learning, like, so I would take, like, different pieces of, like, Max's key parts and my guitar parts, for example, and I put them in, like, a spectrum analyzer and kind of see, like, okay, so the way that I've got this guitar recorded, I'm really hitting this curve, and the organ or the synth or these different pieces are really hitting here. But hey, that is also conflating with, like, a lot of the cymbal work here, right? Maybe it's like a fuzzy kind of...
Those mid-ranges, man, they just
and starting to figure out, hey, where does everybody live? And then all of a sudden, like, finding those homes for people from a frequency perspective, right? Changes even maybe the way I choose to EQ the guitar, because to be honest, even if it's soloed as a track, I think it sounds good here. In the mix, I really need to... its home really needs to be over here, so it can sit with these three other things that are also mid-rangey. And then all of a sudden, the stuff started coming alive for me. So it started to kind of click in that way too.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not. You know, they'll all think I'll always be learning, right? But it was like paying attention to things like that, which, if I'm in a studio, I got to trust that person really is in tune to my project enough to care about that.
Or you gotta sit there with them while they're doing it.
Yeah, and who likes that? Like, I'm sitting there, I'm like,
that's what I did.
Hey, do this. I mean, I don't know. At a certain point, the guy's like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, at some point, the guy's like, oh my god.
Yeah. Well, we got very lucky to work with an engineer who's, like, the most patient human being on the planet.
Awesome. Yeah.
And was really just like, he really took a back seat. Like, he was literally just pushing buttons, and it was like, hey man, I want this thing to happen here, and then he'd make it happen. And it was just like, you know, I felt bad sometimes because it was like, you know, you as an artist, you can be a little pushy and demanding on what you're looking for.
You should be demanding, right? If you love this thing, right, you're trying to get it to where you want it to be.
Totally. But, you know, we also had the luxury of working with somebody like that, so it's like, not everybody has that capability where it's like, you find this engineer that's just going to go through the trenches with you and do it, right?
That's awesome.
So it's like, if you don't have that, then it really just makes more sense to do it yourself and
Yeah.
like figure out how to.
That's the complete freedom. For
yeah,
sure.
for sure.
Well, that's what I was shooting for. I mean, I want to know how to do it because I like it.
Yeah.
And I also, quite frankly, we don't have the budget.
Yeah.
But I want to end up in a place at the end of the day where we're really stoked on what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I believe in. I mean, that's a cool thing. Like I love our Band of the Moon, man. Like I really love what everybody is doing. I love what everybody's capable of. Everyone's playing at such a cool level, and I want to do them all justice too. So part of it's like I also feel like this obligation of like servanthood to this group.
Sure.
Because I want people to like be in tune and hear like what the hell Brandon's doing and what Aaron's capable of, and you know, kind of where Max is as a musician. You know, it's like that's the other cool part about, you know, struggling through learning how to do the recording and the mixing and the mastering and all these things is because, like, you know, I'm proud of these guys, and, you know, and I'm proud of what we do together, and quite frankly humbled by what we do together. And so I'm like, hey, you know, we don't have the budget for it, but I want to represent it. I want to try to give it some kind of like authentic justice, you know.
Yeah.
But I can't afford it. You know, I can't afford to do that. And so I was like, the only way I have is to like read a bunch of articles and watch a bunch of YouTube videos and use some cool reference files of recordings I like and try to figure out a way to make it fit into not like just a genre or a reference file, but to fit into like some flavor that I think we represent collectively.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think you nailed it with
Yeah,
this
it
one,
sounds
man.
great,
It sounds
man.
great.
So now the next one, hopefully I don't let it. Hopefully it's not a let.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to.
I'm like, oh,
that's
shit.
what I wanted to ask.
Oh
is-
shit.
Is what else is in the schedule? Like what's coming out next?
So we'll have a date out there pretty soon.
okay.
So one of the things that we were trying to do as we went through is, when I got the final pieces for Let Me Fade, I built out, because the drums were all being done in a pretty similar room, right, or the same room.
Yeah.
The mic setup wasn't going to be drastically different, I didn't think. So I built out a really nice set of like preset strips for all of that. And then there's like a couple variations of like buses that I'm going to use or I anticipate using, and then a couple different master strips that I think I'm going to use, which are all set up in the software. So when I bring these other tracks in, it should feel pretty comparable from a bass and drum perspective, which is where I'm going to try to mix from, right?
Okay.
And so I'm hoping that'll speed it up. I've put in a few others and like I'm working them through, and I'm pretty happy. I think that's going to work, which will make things, I think, move along pretty good, as long as the mixing process doesn't kill me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. Hopefully we'll have a date soon. We're working on them now, and then we'll kind of listen back and see. I think each one will get a little bit of like treatment, like what we did with this one. Is we'll go back and listen and say like, hey, this particular piece feels like it's lacking, or this piece is too busy, or whatever, and we'll kind of, massage them a little bit at the end. And then hopefully they'll be done. I would really like to see it done in the fall for sure. I'm very confident saying, hey, it'll be done. I would think in October timeframe.
Okay.
I'm about to have that baby.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
the good side of that is I'm having a baby.
Yeah,
Or
man.
Christy's having a baby.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, gotta specify.
But the other side of that is that I'm gonna be home a lot. So babies like to sleep, hopefully.
Yeah.
She's like my daughter Piper. She'll probably sleep a lot. And so that'll give me some time, hopefully, to just really focus on the mixing. I mean, we don't have a ton of shows in the month of September, so that'll give me a chance, I think, to really focus on getting all that stuff down and out the door. Because now we've put out the one, that was new for us too. So now having like an idea of how to get that done and out and all that stuff out the door, it should be, I think, pretty quick. So I'm hoping the fall, unless something crazy happens, which, the world we live in, that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, I'm excited. I want to get it out in the fall. And we are kind of starting to think about the next one already and all that stuff. So.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But going back about recording everything, like, what's your schedule like for that? So when we are at the studio, it's like, okay, we have fucking 5 days here. We had like more than 5 days, obviously. We just did it in 5 days. No
Yeah.
worries.
It's not, no big deal. No
But
big
like
deal.
5 days at a time.
Yeah.
But is your schedule more of like be like, hey, come over from like
Exactly.
4 to 10 or whatever. We'll get a couple things on down. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, when you do it to the metronome like that, once you have the bones, like, once we have the framework
You
in.
don't have to have everybody there either, I guess.
No, it's like I'll call freaking Max up and I'll be like, hey, You want to come like give this a listen through and let's mess with frequencies and see if we alter the EQs on your keyboards and my guitar, if we can get them nested in just gorgeously. He's like, yeah, let's do it. We come over, we mess with that for a couple hours. We're like, all right, cool. Another day, you know, like when we did some of the bass stuff, I hit Aaron up. I'm like, hey, listen, man, I've been mixing this bass part, and I think maybe we want to tweak this. Check it out. Listen to this part here. And he's got the, the roughs as we're going. He's listening. He's like, oh, yeah. He'll come over, we tweak some bass parts. That's kind of how we got to the drums with Brandon. I'm like, dude, I've been mixing this stuff, and I think, what do you think? He's like, I don't know, we gotta redo them. He called me one day. He's like, no, we gotta redo these. Yeah. I'm like, let's do it. It's all to a metronome. We got nothing but effort that we want to put into it. Let's get it right. And he went and had talked to Chris and got it set up to be able to do it, and it worked out beautifully. And so it's like that. Or I'll listen to it. I'm like, man, the vocals need change. I'll scrap them all and start over at the house. I mean, that's the beauty of doing it to a metronome and doing it yourself is you're like, there's no pressure in recording this for us. Not that we don't want to get it out there, but like as far as like, well, okay, we're going here. Everyone's got to be helped. Like I would hate going to the studio and I'm like, okay, I got 3 days. Well, I hope I didn't just have a show to where my voice is shot because we were at a real loud gig or something. Or somebody has a cold.
Or like sleeping in a massage parlor without air conditioning.
Yeah, well, I mean,
for 5 days.
It could be any of these things.
Yeah, any of those things.
But yeah, you take that heat off, and it all becomes.
Literally.
It kind of all comes like. Oh God, dude. Well, look, it's like the same thing we were talking about like the ethos of playing.
Yeah.
Right. It's the ethos in like creating the art.
Yeah.
Like a painter doesn't go like, hey, I've got 3 days. I'm gonna go into the studio. I'm gonna paint this fucking thing.
Oh,
Unless
yeah,
it's like
not.
some kind of maybe it's like the approach, like some kind of like pressure painting
Yeah,
or something.
Yeah.
But you have a painter working on a work.
Yeah.
Could take a month. Could take 2 years. And I'm not saying it's equivalent to some great painter. All I'm saying is musicians have, I think, historically had this, like, heat on them that, like, a lot of other mediums haven't necessarily.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And because it's a performing art, it's probably a lot like dancing. Right? If you go to, like, a dancing recital or a ballet, right, it's a performance. But how long did it take someone to write that ballet or to practice it? I mean, we don't know the answer to that, right? So I just feel like there's a lot of heat on folks in the music world to go in and go do this thing and slam it out and all that. But I also wonder, like, what does that do? Like, we had a lot of ideas in that Let Me Fade song that we would have never got if we'd have went in the studio in 5 days and recorded it. We'd have had the song, but would we have had all the things that came along with it? And then even that'll, like, offshoot into, I think, other song ideas and different techniques that we'll use going forward.
Totally.
I mean, we'd miss those things.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. I want the creativity. I don't really want the pressure. And like what Brandon was saying, it's not just about like trying to make it or whatever. Like it's like we're trying to fucking put out art.
Yeah.
Like
the best you can be.
Like whatever I am and whatever
Best
Brandon
band
is
you
and
can
whatever
be.
Max is and whatever Aaron is and whatever then we are as a group. Like it's art, man. I mean, I know it probably sounds like something that should be on like a hippie bus or something.
Well,
but I mean, it's art, man. Like, and our biggest thing is like the live performance stuff. So if we have to go and like consolidate it into a recording, certainly not going to like just rush it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I'm with you, man. I think that the art comes first for sure, and that's why, even though we like in our scenario we have had time restrictions or whatever, you can ask Billy. I'm the last one to think about the budget when we're in the studio.
I know.
Oh yeah.
It's like
Someone's fucking got to though.
It does. They
me.
don't though because
Billy's like, damn
the
it.
entire time.
But the thing is that you do worry about it, but you don't actually know what we have in the bank. So it's like
Yeah, I do.
So
and then also I know how long it's gonna take to get that money back into the bank. too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So those are things that I don't think about at all when we're there doing it. I'm just like we do it, then the tab gets
I have
paid.
studio anxiety.
So here's the thing.
tab gets paid, bro.
Here's the thing. So, all right, you can solve this problem in a couple easy steps. Step one is get yourself some awesome recording software on that computer
Okay.
because you have a computer that can do it.
Yeah.
Not a hacked version.
You can get.
excuse
It's
me?
not even that. The stuff is. I mean, it's expensive, but it's not like for what you'll pay for a day. You could own all of it.
Bro, I have Logic on my computer for $200.
Yeah, so you know what I'm
That's
saying?
it.
Like, and then, all right, so you already have that. So basically, a lot of the money you're shipping off. Like spend some time learning, and you have to get him. You're already using keyboards, right?
Oh,
you gotta get him to go digital.
Never.
And then you have zero constraints.
Oh well, except for the fucking drums.
Nah, man, that's that piece
And the vocals.
That
too.
piece when you're recording to a metronome, right? You can dial in a beat that's representative, at least creatively.
I just meant recording drums. Recording drums is so hard.
Well, that's the one I think you got to find a good mechanism
and
for.
guitar is so hard to record out of an amplifier too.
That's why you get rid of that thing.
You just go straight in.
Dude, I'm telling you, this digital stuff changed my life.
The next album I'm going straight in. I'm not fucking the tube amps anymore.
I'm glad this is being recorded.
Listen to this. He's already turned a little corner. I love it.
I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm not going to mention specifically, but there are things that I'm not fully happy with on this album.
Okay.
That we did.
That's a product of that coming out of an amp, really?
Well, yeah, it's a product.
Part of it, sure, I believe it.
Well, because the problem is that like you hear one thing when you're in the room, you're like, this sounds amazing, and then you go back and listen to it. Kind of to your point about the time crunch and all that is like you go back and you listen to it through the speakers and how it sits in with everything else, like for real, and you're like, I don't like that tone at all. It's like, well, we just spent 2 hours doing this, so we gotta kind of move on. So it's like you figure, and then you go in and then you try and figure out how to you fuck with the EQ a little bit and try and figure out how to make it work, and you get it to a point where it sounds tolerable to listen to. But it's like if you're going digital, well it's like, well, I can just change it completely.
Gotta get into reamping, bro. You can use your total whatever tone you want to build. You can record it with that so it feels awesome to you and send a dry, completely clean signal into the DAW.
Right.
And then when you're mixing, you can bring in now anything.
Right.
And represent that signal.
Right.
In any way. You could be like, hey, let me try that lead part out with a Marshall. Let me try that lead part out with a Friedman. Let me try that lead part out with a Bogner. Let me try that lead part out with a Mesa or my deluxe push to hell, in the... And same thing with clean amps and all that. Because what it does, it gives you this ability to like tailor the emotion of that thing into the mix of what Billy's doing.
Right.
And what Sean's doing. And what Aaron is doing. And it's cool. Like I was so like afraid of the learning curve. Because I was playing like, I would modify my own Fenders. And then I had that Mesa for a while. And I was super into like all the analog stuff. And I still really like it. But once I figured out how to make the digital stuff work for me, I really liked it. Like, it was so funny. There's people that have seen, seen me jamming for, like, several years, years and years, even, like, back to Heard, that were at that album release show. And when I came up and played our set, and then I came back up and played with you guys, and then we're done at the end of the night, people are like, what fucking amp was that?
Yeah.
Like, what fucking amp are you using?
Yeah.
And I'm like...
A little fucking speaker and a fucking Helix board, bro.
And so it's so funny because if you think about like what the folks are getting in the PA off the, like
it's so weird to me though how
it's pretty great representation of like the tones.
But it's weird to me how that works because it's not like a digital pickup, right?
No, it's like the full regular guitar into this essentially a set of algorithms that are looking at like how an amp would react and how speakers would react, and you can tailor all this stuff, and then it just comes through a speaker. And when it's coming through, like I actually tried a lot of speakers, and now I'm just using like a really nice PA speaker to deliver the sound because it's made to be coming through a PA speaker is ultimately what I found. I tried like guitar cabs, stuff like that. It really does sound, I think, really great coming through a high-end PA speaker.
Yeah, of course.
And then when I push it through there, even on stage, man, people like the feel and stuff. Like if you've got it bumped up loud to like the way a tube amp would be from a volume perspective, I don't feel a difference. And I've been playing on big and small stages with really cool, well, I think they're really cool tube amps for like 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And I don't feel a difference. Like once I elevated it on the ground, I felt a difference. Once I elevated it, so I like open back cabinets, like with no back on them.
Of course. And
like once I started playing with it elevated, it felt just like an open back cabinet, and I can get it to feed back and everything. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. Like the recording stuff is awesome that way, and the live stuff, I figured out a way to make it work for me. I don't know if it'll work for everybody, but it worked for me.
They don't have digital pickups. Like, that doesn't make any sense, right?
They have MIDI.
Yeah, they have MIDI. They have
Yeah.
MIDI pickups. They're incredible.
MIDI pickups, but you're also using, like, just regular guitar strings?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's
I know
like
that-
individual sensors under each string.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I know
so-
that Consider the Source uses that rolling guitar.
Yeah,
It's like
Yeah.
the
double
GK
neck.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
GK.
freaking awesome, man.
Yeah.
He's got it.
It's
He's
like
got it
just
figured
playing
out.
like an FM bells the whole way through.
Yeah.
He's so sick.
Like The
My-
Exorcist. and shit.
So Sean for playing at his wedding like gave me his Japanese Strat that he has. And the alcohol's right there. And so what I did was like I put in
It's
like
the wine red one.
yeah.
Yeah, that one's neck is actually really good.
It's great, man.
I was like, man, yeah. Anyway, all right.
Oh no.
I like that one. I
Yeah.
like that one.
Yeah. Are you all right? Are you gonna be upset? Are you upset by this?
No,
No. Okay.
not at all.
Okay.
No, I said I like the neck. I like the neck.
Oh yeah.
I know
yeah.
where you're going. I heard you say pickups.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I was like, no,
so-
I like the neck on that guitar.
The neck is awesome. I got it set up by this guy that I will only take my shit to. He's awesome. This guy, Buddy. And then I bought these. So I'm really big on improving on obviously I like to adopt modern things, right? So I wanted a tone.
So you haven't got into digital yet?
But it's not because I'm a traditionalist. It's because I don't I'm scared of the learning curve, right?
I get it. I totally get it.
It's not because I'm
It's
like
a freaky ass learning curve,
Yeah,
man. Because
and-
like the presets and stuff on these things out of the gate, they don't sound good.
that's
You're
what
like,
I'm saying.
Oh my god, what did I do?
And I'm not the guy that's gonna be here telling you like, oh, you need fucking Marshall stacks and blah. Like you need two. I'm not that guy. I'm just also like kind of lazy when it comes to that stuff. So, but what I did was like I started, I wanted a modern tone. But without losing the Strat quality, So I was like, okay, well, what's out there? And then I started doing some research, and I found, that lace sensor pickups.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
ask you. Did you put in lace sensors?
I did put in some lace sensors. Now it already had one lace sensor in the bridge, but I swapped them all. I swapped them all out and got like the newest version of the lace sensor gold pickups with like a really hot bridge pickup.
Our buddy Ford had those in his Eric Clapton Strat.
Yeah.
And I thought they sounded really good.
They sound good, man. I'm not 100% where I want to be with it just yet, but I see the potential, and I don't know what I have to do just yet, but like
I liked the noiseless, man. The noiseless on single. I went back my Strat. I went back to humbucker, single humbucker,
yeah.
because I couldn't deal with always having the 60 cycle hum. in
Yeah,
there.
no, I feel you. Now the
That thing was
lace
killing me.
sensors don't have that. Like
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
noise
they're noiseless.
reduction.
Yeah,
they're not noiseless.
Oh, really? I thought
They're-
they were.
They're
Okay.
not fully noiseless. They are noise reduction though.
Okay.
So, but like I mean, there's no difference. It's like you can't like they sound like noiseless pickups.
And the maker strikes
yeah,
again.
Jesus Christ, man. So they sound
Noiseless.
yeah,
Noiseless.
noiseless. They sound
There you
like
go.
noiseless pickups, but like they're thicker. I think like they got a bit of a dark. They almost sound like EMGs if they were like
Okay.
noiseless.
Yeah,
you know
I totally
what
get it. I totally get it.
Yeah,
Those are cool. The best quick plug here, if anybody's looking, my favorite Strat pickups ever,
what's that?
dude, Lawler.
Oh yeah,
Man,
Lawler
I
makes
got
amazing
Lawler
pickups.
blondes in my guitars. So,
You do?
hey, if you're out there, I think Jason, right? Jason Lawler.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, up
sponsor
there.
us.
Dude, hit me up. I've got Imperial humbuckers in
I had those too. My fucking in my Les Paul, bro.
Outstanding.
I actually trade Ford
And-
for that SG.
Oh, dude. And yes, please. And I will tell you that the Lawler blondes have changed my life. And I really love them. And he's got a really cool statement about he had the his traditional like 60s stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because the blondes are a little bit scooped. Traditional 60s stuff where the blackface is what he was calling them. And he has kind of since changed the name, I think, to like 63s or something like 64 something like that.
Well, I think that is.
It was to be a little bit to generate some awareness of that what we call things matter.
Yeah.
Which I thought was ballsy and really cool. So props to you.
Yeah.
And you make hell of pickups. And if you ever come across this, dude, hit me up. Let's do some work. I already have all your pickups anyway. So,
Bro, I had a set.
it won't cost you much.
I had the Imperials in my Les Paul. I fucking loved them, man.
They're man. He makes some insane stuff.
Yeah.
But on the digital side of it, man, like I really think, and I always tell everybody that I know is really into their equipment. There is a kind of freaky learning curve, but I think all of the like main solutions that are out there now are all really good. And to be honest, I think they're all really on par with each other. They all just have a different way, I think, of like tweaking them.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy. I roll to the gig with a backpack, and it's been sounding the same every night. Like I did that run where I did like 4 days, I think, in a row, and it was like I alternated. And the last night I was at 1904, which is a room I know well. I love more than probably any other room just because I've played it so much.
Same.
And I brought my Mesa that night and my 212 because I was like, man, in this room with Eric, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I don't need this thing, being the digital solution. And all night I missed my digital rig and I wished so bad I brought it.
Really?
And that's the day when I was like, okay, I'm done. And it's not like I hate that stuff. I still think it's great. But just for ease of use and consistency and reliability, and also I got way more diverse sounds available to me.
Totally.
I love them. I don't know. I've like fallen in love with that way of doing things.
Yeah, no, I'm into it, man. I just gotta get like past the.
At least for the recording, man. At least for the recording, it'll change your life because then you can do all the stuff you were saying. Like if you go back, you don't like the tone, you want to tweak it. Well, you just reamp it. It could be anything you want it to be.
Right. There's a thing. I guess you kind of already like alluded to that, but the idea of like having the right tone while you're playing it, because that makes you play like differently.
Oh yeah, it gives you the flavor. It gives you the flavor to track it the way you want.
Yeah.
But you just send a dry signal in.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, you're hearing what you want to hear. It's cool because you can do like all this crazy stuff, man. Like even your live performances, if you want to get wild, you can do stereo rigs, you can do wet dry rigs, you can do all the stuff that you'd need a trailer full of equipment to do, all in a little thing that fits in your freaking backpack.
Yeah.
Like. It's insane. Like I've had so much equipment and sold so much equipment in my life, and it's like with a minimal investment relatively, I can piece all those things back together from all these different stages of my musical development and then execute on them however I feel like. And if I don't use them, big deal. There's like hundreds of presets, so it's like who cares if I don't use it? Big deal. There's some nights where I've like only used just the amp and the cabinet simulation. I'm just trying to go like I would just go right into an amp, and that's it.
Yeah.
And there's some nights where if like we're really vibing and going crazy, I want to use all this weird shit, and I do that too. And it's like no love lost. It's like having a pedal board, and sometimes if I don't want to use it, who cares? I didn't have to bring it, set it up. I didn't have to. It's just goofy. Like I'm so envious of all the keys players for so many years, having like all these things accessible to you at like a moment's notice, and being so consistently there. Yeah, it's super cool, man.
Yeah, always trust a keyboard with more knobs is always my go-to. I look at the keyboard's interface immediately. I'm like, oh no, fuck, no, I need like 400 fucking knobs. But I was while you were saying all that, that's what I was thinking about is like how you would transplant that for a keyboard and what sort of like audio signal that I would have to give out to the Helix pedal board. I'm like, could I just play guitar on my piano?
You absolutely could. And the other cool part is like Max is so knowledgeable about those things. Like
you still needed like a guitar sound out of the keyboard to like
you could get it. If you get like a cool ass keyboard sound going, even like a clav with some overdrive on it.
Overdrive and like
put
a
it through
effect.
A guitar cabinet emulation.
Yeah.
You're there. Who's the guy?
Totally.
Is it
I like to experiment
Lackey?
with that.
What's his name? Who am I thinking, man?
From,
What are we
from
talking
who?
about?
The keyboard player that does like amazing. He's got that tabletop whammy clav that he just absolutely kills it.
He plays his Snarky Puppy.
I don't know if he plays with Snarky Puppy. I thought he was doing his own organ trio thing, or at least that's what I've seen. Like
Will Blades?
Lackey Doley?
Oh.
God.
Yeah.
Totally screwing this guy's name up. I'm sorry.
I can't remember his
I'm
name.
Embarrassed, but the videos of him playing Hendrix is what's burned in my brain. Everything else doesn't even matter after I've seen
You know
it.
what's interesting about the wah pedal? Not a wah pedal. Sorry,
it's a whammy bar.
Whammy bar
Yeah.
on the clav. that was like stock. That's not like something he invented.
It's so cool, man.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
but-
like,
and it's insanely that enormous for some god awful reason. I have no idea
it's
why.
because
to
you
get the
have to look at
full
that guy. He's like, you
motion-
gotta
range of
slam it because you're
motion.
grooving so hard.
But it's essentially just a lever, right?
It's a lever, yeah.
I'm just like, you don't need it to be that big. You could just do it with a little guy right there.
Yeah.
But it does look like, super rock star.
it's
with
so
the,
cool, man.
but you find a collab like what are they called? The Honed? I can't remember the name of it.
Honers?
But Honers, thank you.
Yeah.
From like the 70s and up. They all have that little like box at the front of it that you just take it out and like that's where you stick it in. And I don't know why it looks like a fucking pull down bar.
Yeah.
Well,
doing lats on
well,
your
you could
fucking
do
collab.
it. You could do it, man. You could do it. But Max is what pushed me into all that because I was kind of thinking about it,
Yeah.
and he was the one who was like, "Hey, you should chase it if you think there's possibilities behind it."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, let me kind of see." And I had one. I sold it and went only back to using amps for a short period of time. And then I was like, I think I missed this thing. So I bought another one, and that's when I started alternating and eventually just fell over. But honestly, it's all Max pushing me to explore new things
Yeah.
and challenging my notions of what we were talking about at the beginning, right? Of just doing, you always hear people say now it's like kind of cheesy at this point, but you do you.
Yeah.
Like kind of thing. It was like, well, hey, I mean, if I'm finding inspiration from it and benefit from it, and I think it's helping me convey the best version of myself, if it's helping me be the best Anton that I can be,
I hate
then
that
it's
this is a thing now, by
yeah,
the way.
it's a thing. Oh,
I
it's
hate
absolutely
it.
a thing. But yeah, if you can chase it, exploring these new ways of making music, then absolutely chase it. And he gave me the courage, to be honest. So it's shout out to you, Max. Gave me the courage, and that's part of what's so cool about this recording, this band. We all do, I think, things like that for each other all the time.
Yeah.
Or at least I feel like, that's the kind of love that I feel from those guys all the time.
Well, that translates when you guys are on stage too. I will say, like, you guys have like an undeniable kind of thing up there. I've never seen you have an off night, honestly, but even the nights that where I've watched you play and after the fact where you told me where you thought it was an off night, there's still an undeniable energy that's like coming off of that stage. And I think the thing that you're talking about right now is very apparent to everybody. For sure.
I mean, I appreciate it, and I sure hope so. I think it comes down to like actual, like really, really real love, respect for each other, love and respect for each other, but also vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like, it's that kind of honest vulnerability that then when you're on stage, now anything can happen, and everybody's listening, and we're gonna go there and be vulnerable with each other in these improvisational like moments and things. Like I said, we had a show that I think. I'll just speak from my own perspective. I felt like we were going to come in and just feel like, we had an awesome show. There was a show in the spring, is all I'll say. And we just, I felt like we were going to come in and just kill it. Like, that's how I think we felt leading up, or I felt leading up to it. And I didn't really happen that way, in my perspective at least, and I think those guys would agree. But, and then we kind of started looking at kind of, our approach to things, and letting go even a little bit more and becoming even a little more vulnerable. And there were things going on in everybody's lives that I think enabled that vulnerability to grow and like cement as like a trait that we have between each other. And then really since then, it's really taken a really hard turn, and I feel like an upward direction, but not because we're striving to be like in an upward direction. It's just because we've been loving and respectful and vulnerable. And I think that you can't hide that in the music. Like, we went to, man, in all the years I've been playing music, I don't know how many shows I've played, but let's say 1,000 or more. We went to Asheville in whatever, I don't know if it's June or maybe July. It's gotta be July.
Yeah.
And we went up there and played this gig, and of all the shows I've ever played, it was definitely one of the top ones, like top 5 for sure. It's like hard to say like that with like Swanee and other stuff. That's like, things I've watched all my heroes do and all that stuff. But I mean, certainly it was up there, way up there, without even a doubt. And it was because it was like a culmination of all of us just trusting and loving and respecting and being vulnerable. And there was all this crazy shit leading up to the show that was not perfect. Like, we were running really late. We left early in the morning from here, and we were like getting in like 30 minutes before the show at like 10 o'clock or
That's
whatever.
why you leave the day before, right?
Oh, dude, it was like, and Brandon will laugh because he was the one saying, you know, we got to make sure we're leaving. We're going to leave early in the morning. We took 2 cars and we all hit all this gnarly ass traffic. It was
Sure.
fucking terrible.
Yeah.
The car that Brandon and Aaron were in got up there like 10 minutes before call time. I mean, I'm talking about we were to the fucking wire, dude.
Yeah, that's what Brandon was saying.
So
yeah.
it was like heavy, like to get started. But then we came in and we just played. And we all knew, like, everybody has coming from these different perspectives and, like, different little stressors and things we got to work through. And we got up, we started playing. It was, I think it was our best show in this band, or at least I felt like it was probably. And in all the shows I've ever played, it was up there in my favorite shows ever.
Yeah.
And it's because of those things. So I hope it comes across. It makes it easy for us, I feel like, to do, like, what we want to do now and to give without, you know, we had no idea what to expect up there in Asheville.
Right.
But we just gave, you know, without worrying about what was going to come back, but just completely giving. And it turned out to give us back like something that you could not have expected to get back, which is kind of why when that stuff works, it's so cool. You couldn't expect, you know, whatever to be going on was going on. But whatever happened in that night in the room with the people, it was super fun. And I was like, all right. So I think hopefully that continues to work that way. But I think it's partly rooted in a little bit of luck and then that kind of vulnerability.
Yeah, totally.
I think it's a big piece of it.
Because I played that place, that
Oh,
exact
yeah.
same place, and I had an entire bachelorette party asking if we knew any Taylor Swift songs.
That was the.
Oh no!
No.
And she goes, "I'm from Alabama," and I'm like, I couldn't tell.
No, that was.
Everyone's
like,
wearing
shit.
Crimson Tide shirts.
That was at One World Brewery.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
Why do we have to argue about things when I clearly remember where it was?
That's when Rory played with us.
Nope. No, it wasn't.
Oh well, that's what I
like it's
remember.
the end of
He
it.
said, nah.
But
Well-
yeah, that I played there before, and what's so crazy about it is you're below the Asheville Music Hall, which is this like giant, you know, music venue downtown, and there's always a band there. What night did you play? Like a Friday or Saturday night?
I think it was a Friday, I think.
I'm just saying, like, obviously
Friday?
they're gonna
it was
have
a Friday or Saturday, but I
they're
think it
gonna
was a
have
Friday.
somebody upstairs that's usually, if not regional, like national touring act come through, and then watching the videos that y'all had, I was just like, fuck yes,
Yeah.
good for you.
Well, it was just weird and crazy. Like I said, we had a lot of obstacles like coming into that, right? Like that were really stressful that could have or should have, you know, like screwed with us. And it was just loving each other and respecting each other and being vulnerable and doing it because we want to do it together. And we want to do it with the people that we're doing it with. And all of a sudden we just gave. We didn't expect anything back. And, dude, like the entire staff from upstairs left and came downstairs. A shitload of people.
Dope.
A shitload of people from the show upstairs left and came
That
downstairs.
is
Yeah.
so fucking
Like,
cool.
and it's
man.
not to take anything away from everything else that was going on. It was just like there was something happening we did not control that. We didn't have anything to do with it. We were
Right.
just giving without looking for shit back.
Right.
And all of a sudden, like, the whole place changed. Like, it was like some weird ass, like, cosmic dust was floating around, and like all of a sudden everyone was breathing in the same, like the music. Like, there's something in the frequency, right? There's something that happens that you can't like alter it. You can just do what you're doing, and all of a sudden it just picked up through all of the vibes, and I feel like the whole fucking town, you know, I'm not trying to like romanticize it, but it was something way beyond the four of us that we allowed maybe to come through by giving without looking for shit back or something. But something definitely happened. I don't know what it was or how it happened, and I don't think we control it. Like, that was something else Brandon said. You're not going to just grab that on command every time, right? It's not, which was what was so cool about it. It's not something you just take, right? It's all in a giving direction. And that definitely galvanized like some of the things that I've struggled with and been working towards, even on myself. And I think the group too, like everyone kind of recognized maybe that is that there is something really big in, like, it's not about anything but giving. It's not about making it. It's not about being cool. It's not about any of those things. It's just about doing what you love and loving what you do with the people you're with.
And then getting to fucking experience those moments.
It was crazy. I'll remember that one just like anytime I remember like
I
playing
know.
on the fucking amphitheater at Swanee.
Right?
Right? It's like it was that big a deal because there was something else happening. Just like at Swanee, there's something else happening.
Oh, yeah.
And it's way beyond you. You know, it's way beyond your band. It's way beyond. There's no, I don't know, whatever. Well, yeah, but it was like holding
like a
that
Wizard
moment.
of Oz,
Like, whoa.
Poppy Field situation. Just like you're just like, oh fuck yeah, this is a great place to be right now.
It was definitely something.
I've got experience that. I'm not trying to ruin your story or anything, but
No,
I
dude.
played at 1904 with Greenhouse Lounge. And,
Awesome.
well, it was cool, but the best part of it was us four, and then Rosie got on stage with us,
Oh, yeah.
right? Roosevelt Collier, and we played this section where it's just supposed to be like, I don't know, maybe like 16 times through, and then it's just done. We played that section for 20 minutes, and the reason why is
Yeah.
because have you ever played a show before where the whole crowd or whatever, they have stopped looking at you and stopped cheering you on. They are literally just dancing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like it was like a disco ball moment. Like I was at some sort of like high school prom or something like that. And like
That's awesome.
we're like just fucking keep going, and could just feel it. And you listen, and that's the best part of the whole thing. It's like a 120 trance, like 4 on the floor, and then just going B minor to G major the whole time.
Well, he's a guy, he can do, like, he's a guy, like, I was saying we can't, like, just grab it on command. He's
Oh,
a
yeah.
guy I feel like he's figured out how to grab that shit on command. Like,
He's
every
got soul, for sure.
every show he plays, every time I've played with him, he's got a way of, he gets it. Like, all the things that are whatever that it is, he's definitely given it. And yeah, I mean, I believe it. That's awesome. That's awesome, man, because he's got to figure it out. Anytime he's up there with folks, and you guys, Greenhouse is sick. Yeah, I believe it. Like you said, like a disco ball moment. That's awesome. Yeah.
It was so just like you said, that moment where it was like it had nothing to do with us or anything like that. It had to do with the fact that there's 100 people dancing, and they just wanted to dance, and they were appreciating the music, I guess. But they weren't looking at us. Not one person was looking at us. But they were all dancing and like super fucking into it. And all we were playing is B minor to G major.
Yeah.
Like that's the most simple fucking thing ever. I mean, like it was, pretty dope.
That's where it's
Yeah.
at, though. It's like it's almost like a validation of a different kind. Instead of
Yeah.
like a validation of like all those things about being a musician, it's almost like the same validation you get like when you go, like if you ever like been out into nature, it could be like the ocean or a mountain or whatever, and you look and you're like, or just the stars, and you're like, this shit is so fucking huge.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's not even it's like a realization kind of thing.
True
Yeah.
beauty.
It's like, dude, this is way outside of all of us. Holy shit.
Unexplainable true beauty. That's what C.S. Lewis explained for the existence of a higher being,
All right.
without a doubt. But maybe it's just us
Lay it on us, Billy.
not
Keep
being
going.
able to
Go, baby, go.
fully comprehend, something that's enormous.
Well, there's something that
But I still think that when those moments happen, you do think for a second, you're like, oh, well, shit, I should have been paying attention in Sunday school just for a second. Because maybe it's real. Maybe God's real and everything, but
There's something real there. I mean, and
it's very strange. I don't know what to call it.
Terrence McKenna says a good friend of mine, Jared Bell, sent this speech to me recently from Terrence McKenna, and he said something that I thought was so like on the mark. He said a lot of things in that speech I thought were on the mark, but this one in particular, where he said the idea of something, I'm paraphrasing, but the idea of the metric for something being real, like having to be something that you can hit with a hammer, is like insane. And the fact that we've like just all accepted that to be reality is like the most absurd thing
It
in
is.
the world, which is
Yeah, it is.
which is his problem. Terrence McKenna is very outspoken about his problem with with hard sciences and how it's all like another thing he said in this quote in this speech was like the best thing that hard science does, again I'm paraphrasing, is like using its findings to build tools for toddlers. He's like,
Yeah, dude.
it's like literally, it's like that's its greatest achievement. It's like because we know that it can do that, but everything else is up for debate amongst that stuff. And so you hear things like, so what I'm saying is those experiences like that, we know intuitively there's something happening there. We can't use the sciences to prove what's happening there right now, but we for sure can. We know through the experience that, and through our own intuition, that there's a real connection happening.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
Escape to Witch Mountain situation.
I don't get that reference.
The made-for-TV Disney TV movie where the twins have supernatural powers. They could touch each other and have telepathy.
Halloween World?
No, it's Halloween Town.
Halloween
and then
Town.
secondly, it's
Whoops.
Escape to Witch
Sorry.
Mountain. They remade it with The Rock, actually.
Okay.
Which doesn't make any sense because he doesn't have a twin brother in
Don't
the
you
movie.
smell what the Rock's cooking, dude?
Come
on, I mean,
right here,
you
bro.
smell that
Jesus
shit?
Christ.
Come on, man. You smell what he's cooking?
Have you ever tasted heaven in a glass? Do you pine for the hoppiest brews and palest ales? Do you like food? If so, then Wicked Barley is the oasis that your mouth has been wishing for, walking into the complete barren wasteland that is your life. Wicked Barley is located in Jacksonville, Florida, nestled on the banks of Good Peace Creek. Wicked Barley aims to provide its guests with a wicked experience, offering over 18 house-brewed beers, ciders, and meads on tap. They also have an expansive gastropub-style food menu, including burgers, salads, sandwiches, and more. Whether you are a newcomer or a craft beer connoisseur, there's a little something for everyone at Wicked Barley. Visit them at 4100 Bay Meadows Drive and tell them Bottom of the Bill sent you.
But yeah, I think moments like that. I mean, Terrence McKenna was talking more about like alien life and interdimensional travel and that kind of thing. But
That's what I think In the Pocket is, actually.
Or reptilian existence?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't let it. If you get him drunk enough, he'll really tell you how to fucking bend space time.
Yeah.
He will.
What's homeboy's name? David
Icke.
Is it Ike or Ick?
I always forget. They
It
say
doesn't
it's
matter.
something different.
But yeah, yeah.
Your homeboys, or he doesn't like you very much.
Well, he doesn't like me very much, yeah. No, but there's something there, I think, with music and art in general. But there's something with like the vibration of music,
Here we go.
that I don't know is fully explainable. But I think we've all had those moments, whether it's in performance or just experiencing somebody else perform, where you're just like overtaken with this thing where it's just it's hard to explain,
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something tactile happening, right? Like the old, I think the sensation or the sense of hearing, right? It does all these weird things with touch,
Yeah.
right? The vibration does all these weird things with touch, but it's also stimulating your mind. It's so multifaceted. I mean, in the same way visual arts are, right? I mean, there's something happening to your eyes and it's triggering all these other, neurological pathways, I'm sure. But some reason the music stuff, man, it's insane. Like, there's pieces of classical music, like if I listen too loud, like bug me out so intent, like all the string vibrations and the bass and just the swells and the nuance, or like
Listen to the
some
fucking
jazz albums will do
Rites
that
of
too.
String, Rites of
Spring? Yeah.
from Stravinsky. Yeah, just listen
Yeah.
to that. You just be like, fuck, I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff going on, or some Indian music, is really, I really like
Yeah.
that, or like ancient chants.
Oh,
Like when I was
yeah.
in school, I got really into like all kinds of Native American song, and that kind of stuff is the same way. A lot of with that pulsing beat and the singing and the way they compose their, their singing melody lines and things, and
you
especially
familiar-
Indian music.
Are you familiar with Jimmy Smith? Not the reggae artist from back in the day, but like he's a modern jazz guy, and he's like done this thing where he was on Eric Krasno's podcast within the last year, and he talks about how he's incorporated, like he's written these jazz compositions, but he's incorporated like Native American kind of percussion and chants into.
No, I haven't seen that. I need to check that out because that was something that I was really dug. Like when I was in school, like the library there had an awesome collection of all kind of world music, and it was, like Library of Congress kind of stuff. And I would go and I'd check out all these like volumes of all this stuff. They would go out into, you know, the country, and they would record all these folks as like oral traditions. There's just tapes and tapes and tapes of this shit. It was amazing music, and I just never heard anything like it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to even find now. But I think there's like some serious power in that stuff. I hear like the vibration piece of it, and it translates to all music. If you're resonating with some kind of music, there's something in that that's hit you. But boy, if you open that stuff up, or open yourself up to that stuff, I should say.
Yeah, for sure, man.
This might be like a stoner moment thought, but I'm just thinking about like, you know, the space and universe. There's no air out there, so there's no music. The only place where there's music is Earth.
That's not really true.
That is true.
If you listen, they've been able to record the sounds that like
say there's sounds in space. They've been recording some weird
from
stuff.
Planets,
And like magnetic fields and all this kind of stuff have sound, but
there's tonal value there, like that you can hear, and it's like, you know.
I think we can't. It may be in frequency ranges or bands that we're not privy to or something.
Oh, like fucking alien music. Dude?
Alien music. Oh, reptilian music maybe.
Reptilian music
You know?
is just like
Reptilian tunes. Is that the name of the next album? Is it
That's the next
Reptilian
album.
Tunes?
Yeah,
Reptilian Tunes.
Reptilian Tunes,
Yeah.
no.
No, but I think, I mean, it is something that's for sure universal. It's not like it's something that like sounds like. I remember when I was on the road with Brock and Jake, we were in like Maine or somewhere, and we had a couple of nights off, and we were staying at a friend's house, like one of his friends' houses, and this I heard like in the distance a bird, right? It's just like, and this bird is doing a triad.
Okay.
And it's just like that interval just exists, and it's like,
Now that's the second part of C.S. Lewis's proof of existence of a higher power is truth. And truth is things that you can see, like why 4 + 4 = 8.
it's objective reality. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so maybe that has something to do with it too. You put it all together. The last one is goodness. That proves an existence. That why are you? Why does morality exist?
Well, this can get to be really deep.
That's
but,
what I'm just trying to say. Well, hang on. Well,
there's-
I'll say that for the last one.
Well, so if you really, I mean,
They're
like,
all gonna get baptized.
Morality. Morality, I mean, I'm just speculating. Morality probably exists because we have a level of empathy, because we can perceive a level of consciousness that gives us some insight to a oneness,
Right.
where we can understand each other's emotions and dealings with things because we're actually in tune with the same exact source of consciousness.
Right, but I'm saying animals don't have empathy.
Yeah, well, they don't perceive that level of consciousness, right?
Right.
They perceive a certain level of consciousness, but haven't tapped into that level where you can.
No, they're not sentient.
Yeah, well, not full. They are to an extent, right? Like they're self-aware,
Right,
right?
the
But
whole
they're
point
not
is
aware
that
of you though, as like as something with feelings.
they're not aware that there's more. That there's like a horse is not aware that there's like a million horses. That's the whole difference between us and animals.
Yeah,
That's what
but
sentience
if
is.
there was a million horses in front of them, they'd be aware there's a million horses in front of them.
Sure,
You know
but
what I mean?
there's what 8 billion people on the planet. I know that, and I also know that there's
It's probably more than that.
Well, regardless, the whole point is that I know that there's 8 billion people.
Yeah.
And they all.
But you don't. But you don't know the exact number of people that are here. It's kind of a similar thing. There's still a limit to the level of consciousness that you have.
And the last thing is that they don't create anything. That isn't for survival. I think.
Survival.
Do you think? Well, whatever. This has gotten way off the rails, but
That's all right. I like off the
still
rails.
Interesting.
I'm just.
I'm home.
I'm
We're
just-
off the rails. I'm home.
talking
All right.
about Cindy. One of my biggest hobby, or not biggest hobby, but
Oh shit, we're getting
my most
We're
favorite topic is consciousness, and
Yeah.
the fact that we as humans know that we exist
Yeah.
and know what consciousness is, but what is that? and then that
I
kind of like makes your mind break. And then I've come to the conclusion after a while, just I don't exist. We don't exist.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah.
I believe that what consciousness is just a level of perception. Like there's
Consciousness is a revolving thing of awareness and attention. That's all it is.
No, consciousness is what we're all living within, right? Like energy and matter can't be created or destroyed. So like consciousness is the thing that energy and matter kind of live within.
No.
And then as an animal, as an animal that has a brain that works at a certain capacity, you can perceive a level of consciousness, right? So you have matter, energy, and you have consciousness.
Okay.
As an animal, you can perceive a certain level of consciousness, but certain animals can only perceive it like a different level, like a lower level of consciousness. And I'm sure there's other beings out there that can perceive a higher level of consciousness, which is why they can manipulate things in a different way that in a different way that we can understand, right? So
That's assuming. Yeah. I keep going. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But my point being is that I don't think that there like the reason why you were in the bathroom, like something that I was stating was like the reason why I think we can why we can understand empathy is that empathy is just like something that you gain awareness of as you tap into a certain level of consciousness, because there is a certain oneness that we're all tapping into, whether you're a cockroach or whether you're a human being, right? But hold on. No, let me finish though. Let me finish. At a certain level of awareness, you become aware of the way other people or other beings might feel about something, because we've gotten to the level where we can tap into that oneness where we're feeling each other's thing, right? But like animals can tap into it to a point where they're aware of themselves.
Yeah.
But they're not aware of like the things that make you like a separate entity, right? Like your emotions and all. So it's like it's just different levels of like perceiving consciousness, because your brain is capable of doing that.
Well, I would rather call it different planes of existence, but not consciousness.
And
Consciousness,
it's
like,
all semantics, but it's the same thing, though.
yeah. Well, no, because it's a little bit different.
It's not.
No, it is, because consciousness is you literally knowing that you exist. Period.
Right, but
And
it's
you
it's,
like taking in everything.
it's
That's
like,
different
when
than
you turn the TV on,
Yeah,
right?
it's- yeah.
It's getting a signal. That signal's already there,
Oh yeah.
but the television's like now able to tap into that signal.
Right.
That's what it is. Like when you turn off, the signal doesn't go away. It's just your body's not perceiving the signal anymore. But that consciousness is still there.
But it doesn't exist unless you are
You-
aware
you-
or paying attention to it.
We don't.
Or is that what you're saying, that it doesn't exist? It does exist the whole time.
It exists regardless of what.
anything.
Yeah.
No, I-
matter and energy is not created or destroyed.
Sure, but
That's-
that's
we know
how
that.
relativity works. Anyways, is what if no one's observing it, it's doesn't exist. Like Schrodinger, like it doesn't exist.
It's very
If-
Ayn Randian of you.
I'm just trying to say that consciousness in itself probably don't exist.
It's a level of it's just perceiving, like light, right? Like you perceive light, you perceive you perceive smell, you perceive like you perceive all of these things, right?
Yeah, it's
Like,
awareness.
those things all exist regardless of you being here or not.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is
And
that
consciousness
it doesn't
is just
exist.
it's just a
That's
thing that
my-
you perceive.
No, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, you used to we just disagree.
Oh,
What do you think,
100%.
Ben?
I think you're probably almost in the same place. You know what I mean? I'm not so convinced that, like, I hear what you're saying, whether you're a cockroach or you're Anton.
No. Cockroach. That's what he said.
Cockroach.
That's what
A
I was laugh-
cockroach.
That's what I was laughing about.
I hate roaches, by the way. They're my
No,
least
but-
favorite thing in
but
the world.
look, I mean-
Terrified of them.
Cockroach, like he's Tony Montana.
I kind of hear I hear the same direction in both places, right? I mean, you're saying, hey, this stuff exists whether you recognize it or not. And I
Which I
think
guess
what
is
I'm
more
hearing,
Ayn Randian of me to say
and I'm
that.
think,
than
well, yeah, and I think what I'm hearing Billy
Iranian?
say is
Doesn't
that it's not consciousness doesn't exist, and I think they're both true. I think, at least kind of from some of my experiences, I'll say,
yeah.
that I think that I think consciousness at an individual level, right? It ceases to exist when you have that, when you tune out and you find that larger awareness. And
Right.
things like empathy is some, we have this condition almost where by default we're programmed to reflect from like this individual point of view, right? And like anytime you first enter, not anytime, a lot of things what I've experienced or I've heard people talk about that I identify with is like when you start to transcend into some other state, right? It's like have you ever heard somebody say like you're on like a set? Like
No.
when you start to drop out, like you're on the set of a movie, or you're like
I've heard, yeah, like a
you're
Truman
like-
Show kind of thing.
you're like on this set of this thing, and I think that's like the first sensitivity to like you're actually dropping away from this default condition of like holding on to this sense of individuality.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like that the strings are starting to pull off of like this single frame of reference, and then all of a sudden you end up in a place where I think what you're saying is true, where you realize like consciousness is an individual state, maybe doesn't necessarily exist, and there's this potential to get to what I'm hearing you describe as like the oneness.
Yeah.
And I think that that's true. I think once you recognize that, there is a oneness and that potentially every sense of individuality is a refraction of that oneness working cooperatively simultaneously, it makes things both instantly true, is that consciousness doesn't really exist, and that, hey, at the same point you have this single frame of reference. When you break away from that and you're starting to recognize all of those things, you're almost meeting yourself. So
I see what you're saying.
Empathy is a cool thing because specifically it's like self-love in a way, right? And that's why I think it's such a cool thing to love other people. Like and I think that's, wow. So all right, let's run with that and say, if we take that a step farther, like what's happening in music, like, and I'll just use our group on the stage, right? We start talking about like love and trust and vulnerability. It's all of a sudden recognizing like the oneness of the thing.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden something else happens.
Exactly.
And I think that
we've
maybe
talked about that in the show before, exactly with improvising live.
that's what's occurring with whatever we're finding.
Yes.
Is, it took us a little bit to kind of get there, but I think that's kind of what it is. Like both things are true, right? It's the surrender of that individual refraction.
Right.
And kind of saying, hey, maybe this individual consciousness, it doesn't exist.
Well, okay. Well, if you're gonna say, sure.
Well put. You talk
if,
better than I do.
And I'm not saying it's a fact. I'm not saying it's a fact. It's
no, of course.
I'm saying it's what I'm kind of perceiving to be true and what I feel comfortable with from an understanding perspective. But understanding is kind of bullshit too.
Sure.
That's assuming like you've got it hacked, and I think that's like the first trick to falling back into individuality.
Totally.
Just get into the blob,
I think,
dude.
but
let it eat. Yeah.
I think that you, but by saying individual consciousness doesn't exist versus saying consciousness doesn't exist, those are two different things, right? Because like what I'm saying is that like, yeah, there's an ego death that happens, right? But that doesn't negate consciousness. That just means that our idea of consciousness ceases to exist because we're not like we haven't refracted it. Like we haven't like whittled it down to this almost prison-like state
of
being trapped in a physical body.
There's also
and
beauty
in a brain.
there. There's also beauty there,
Totally.
right?
I'm with
there's
you.
beauty in the it seeing itself, which is maybe why it's defaulted this way.
That's
It's another layer of harmony that may have to be there for it to.
We are literally we're the universe experiencing itself, right? Like consciousness is that. It's like we're a part of the universe. We become aware of ourselves. That's what it is. That doesn't just stop with us. Like that goes higher. Your brain is just experiencing a certain level of that thing. Right? So when it ceases to exist, it's not that consciousness goes away. It's just that like the body, like this body right here doesn't perceive it anymore. But it doesn't mean that your personality or that your existence goes away, right? Because you are not just you. You are like you're a reflection of this whole thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that freaks me out all the time that I don't know exactly who like what I am or like who I am because I can't really point to like the brain cell that is me.
Because there is none. Because
And that
and no
freaks
one
me out.
and no one knows. No one
Like,
knows.
really bad.
No one knows. Like this has been like the battle for a long time. I mean, no one knows where consciousness, like where the mind actually lives, right? And a part of that is just it isn't a physical thing. It's that you're just perceiving something that's already there.
It's an
at a certain
alternator.
level.
It can't have one without the other. It's attention and awareness, and that's what consciousness is.
No,
And it was
but you don't create consciousness. That's the thing.
No, humanity created it as a survival technique.
No, that's not. But that's where we
What-
disagree, though.
I think that's what it was. I don't think there was a big hand in the sky that was like, boop.
Neither do I.
consciousness.
I'm not like that either.
Well, then-
it just exists. It's just a matter. It's just a fact of. It's like you have energy that just exists. You have matter, and you have consciousness. We don't talk about the consciousness because that kind of implies a different
'Cause
thing.
it's not energy or matter.
Because it's kind of like the glue in between,
Yeah.
or the thing that the energy and matter.
Spirit
Sorry,
or whatever you
let
wanna
me
call it, right?
or God, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the thing that energy and matter exist within, and then you, as energy and matter, have developed a brain as a survival mechanism to work on a level that can perceive a certain amount of consciousness that gives you the understanding of empathy and furthermore sympathy, right? Because that's where our survival mechanism really is. Like, we're not physically capable of taking on our enemies, but like we can outsmart them because we can understand each other's positions, and more than that, we can feel each other's positions.
There's a cool thing down that kind of line that might be worth looking at that I really like, and it's this idea of perichoresis or perichoretics, and that is kind of this. I don't know if it started with the Greeks. It probably started before that. It's like some path of self-awareness, but it's this idea that something only is what it is as it is in relationship to the things around it, right? And to me, that's always given like some kind of rationality around this idea of like consciousness or not, and that there's only that assignment or that awareness or that interaction because of the things that it's interacting around, right? Like something is only what it is as it is interacting with those other pieces. So like you only are here and what you are and experiencing this because of these things that you're interacting with. Because without that, it would be fundamentally changed or wouldn't exist,
right.
potentially.
See, it's
So
a point of
cool-
reference, kind of.
It's something that was used in theology when they started looking at like the concept of like the Holy Trinity, right? So like in a Christian theological perspective, which I'm neither advising you to think about or advocate for, but just how that's used is when they look at those three pieces of that concept, right? That those three entities that constitute like the Holy Trinity are only what they are as they are in relationship to the others.
Right.
And that is a scalable thought process, which is
Right.
kind of what I took from it, is that, hey, that idea is probably pretty universally applicable, which is I think it kind of came from a Greek line of thought originally, so I don't think it was applied directly there first. I think it was rationalized against that to make a point. And I think that starts to tie some of those concepts of like multiplicity and consciousness and absence of or mutual inclusivity together in a pretty cool way.
Yeah.
And that always made sense to me, at least based on some of the experiences that I've had. And I'm like, yeah, I guess maybe, because it allows for that duplicity of like an individual self, but also like the complete loss of self in relationship to all these other things. So it kind of ties the oneness to still the concept of individuality, because how otherwise might you recognize it?
Right.
Or how might it recognize itself?
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe that's the necessary evil
Well-
that almost has to occur. It's kind of a cool.
Well,
it's kind of a cool way to think about it.
Think about like the idea of sympathy, right? Like empathy is probably like the pinnacle of individuality, because like we can live amongst each other without having to kind of like because we can understand our circumstances without having to feel on the level that's almost what's the word I'm thinking of, that handicaps you, right? But once empathy gets to the next level, which is like sympathy, it's almost like sympathy is this debilitating kind of thing where the empathy is like too much. And it's like we get to a point, we've gone past understanding, and we're actually physically feeling hurt for you, which can, if you think about like how like, you know, nature works and, you know, predator versus prey type thing, it can almost be used as a manipulation against you when empathy turns to sympathy, which ultimately kind of
or it can start as sympathetic, right? Which is almost disingenuous from the start.
Yeah.
Right. There's a realism to empathy there's like a purity to the intent.
Right.
Sympathy is not necessarily carrying that.
Well, I feel isn't sympathy more like when you've taken, like, it's almost like you've taken the pain on yourself. It's like it's not even just understanding the situation. Now it's like you're feeling their situation, and that to me could be like it could be a debilitating thing for the individual, but it's almost like you've tapped into this higher thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's not about me anymore. Now this is like, I actually feel your pain.
Yeah.
It's debilitating to the sense where it destroys the individual, but it actually elevates you to that next level, right? So it's like, it's circular, you know. It's kind of that's how everything works. So we get to a point where we've reached a pinnacle, and then we start to at a certain point we start to subtract, you know, like there's, you know, subtraction in addition at a certain point. And I think that might be kind of where humans are, like we start to reach this point where, you know, where empathy was our pinnacle and sympathy might be our downfall. Not necessarily for you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just like we're actually kind of regressing to a point of like this understanding this oneness. You know what I mean?
Well, we tap into it with music, I guess is what I was trying to say, to bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back.
I that's what I was
It's quite
trying
a well. We've turned 50 in a well, right?
No,
there.
I know. But that's what I was just trying to bring up, that there is something else out there that you can't put your finger on at all when it comes to those moments that we were talking about. And I don't know what it is.
No one does.
No one does, but we try to fucking put it into words and talk about it for 30 minutes here. And
it's trying to explain an acid trip. There's just no point.
Well, and that's too, like, back to what Brandon was saying last week. That's why we stopped trying to like expect that we're gonna get there.
Right.
Right? Because it's like it's a goose chase in a sense. All you can do is like do that give without looking for anything specific back.
Yeah.
And then kind of trust that it's gonna do its thing.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're right. You can't put your finger on it, and you can't command it, and you can't mandate that it shows up.
Right.
You know.
Totally.
Which is kind of cool. I think that's why artists chase it forever. That's why you chase it your whole life, right? Because it's like the wind, right?
Yeah.
It's like the fucking wind.
In my head, I'm already putting together a screenplay for a band or just a musician that's just trying to chase the perfect gig.
You know what? That makes me think of that Bob Reynolds guitar band, man. Like that's one of the great. I tell some folks I work with. I always tell them, go listen to "Can't Wait for Perfect," and apply the way that makes you feel to the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that comes back to what we first started talking about. Don't wait for perfect, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
Can't wait for perfect.
For sure.
And I think that's what Tony was trying to tell me. You know, and like live performance, I think that's the moral. I think that's the moral of the story. I mean, that Bob Reynolds guy, damn, does he write, you know, does that group even itself specifically do some fucking incredible music? But I mean, that's one that, boy, you talk about hitting the nail on the head. Like the title, the feeling, the movement, maybe the lesson in kind of what we've been chasing the last, 30, 40 minutes. Maybe it's right in that song. I mean, I don't know. I always think back on that one. Or like, So What?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, talk about kind of blue, right? It was such a cool album, but So What? So What? I'm like, God dang, man. Got it so figured out.
Yeah, totally, man.
That guy's got it so figured out. Oh, well, God bless his soul wherever he is in the cosmic world.
Yeah.
But damn, like, all the advice you hear him giving to all these cats over all the years, and it's just so amazing. And I just think about I think about that guy. You know, he wouldn't have give a shit.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah.
Definitely definitely cared, but not in the way that I think cripples a lot of people, or that a lot of us as artists struggle with.
Yeah.
He had different struggles maybe.
It's
But-
out there though, the perfect gig, without a fucking doubt.
It's out there.
The perfect
Chase it,
show.
bro. Chase it. You
The
chase
pick
your
of
whole
destiny.
life. You chase your whole life.
Like-
And it's
like-
good.
Like the pick of destiny.
Think of that.
It's the- yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking about it when I was thinking about it would be Jack Black and Kenny, not Kenny G. What's his name? KG. KG.
Yeah, KG. Yeah.
K-
Kenny G. Now, that's
Fucking
a movie.
Cage,
That's a
not
movie.
Kenny
you know?
G. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's what I call Kenny Gilbert's actually.
Really?
That's funny.
Called Kenny G's. You know what I'm talking about? Anyways, all right, we're way out the subject.
Well,
let's reel it in.
it's probably a good time to get to
Let's
unpopular
cast
opinions.
it out more. You know what I'm saying?
All right, unpopular. Oh shit.
You guys ready for some unpopular
Did
opinions?
you
Go,
write
lay it
any
on.
down?
I wrote 2 down so far.
Oh,
Nice
he's got
shit,
one,
guys.
he's got
I'll
one
think
to
my
go.
last one.
All right.
All right,
All right.
so you know how it works, right? We do 3, then you do 1 at the end.
Okay,
He's
let's
been
go.
here before.
I'm
This is
just
pretty.
saying,
This is
it's
pretty
been a while.
50th episode. This is an Alex Jones episode.
This is
at
the
the
Alex
end.
Jones episode.
No tinfoil hats here, but
Don't cancel us, YouTube.
All right. Now it's very hard to say this one unless you have actually listened to this song. But the theme from "Where in the World Is Carmen Sandiego?"
Oh my god.
The whole thing slaps. It's
Love
the most
it.
ridiculous
Love it.
fucking theme song that's ever been. Like when did you watch it on like PBS?
I
as
grew
a
up on
kid?
that show. Are you freaking kidding me?
Like
Amazing.
the
gumshoes, bro. Let's go.
Yeah, and then she had like whatever. The whole point is like you only heard like the first 30 seconds of it, but it's a 6-minute song and it's ridiculous.
It's amazing.
All right,
It's
maybe not an
literally
unpopular
amazing.
opinion, but listen to the theme song
I
with
can't.
Carmen Sandiego.
I have to listen to it again. I have no.
Oh,
I haven't
just-
played that game since I was like in fucking.
The TV show,
3rd
bro.
grade.
But the TV show,
Outstanding.
It was for the
Outstanding.
TV show. It was like a quiz show for kids and everything like that. It
Okay.
came
It's like
on
a combination of like Jeopardy and like the Nickelodeon like Jungle. What was that Jungle Adventure game?
Legends
yeah.
of the Hidden
Yeah, it's
Temple.
like that crossed with Jeopardy for kids.
Okay.
That's
Amazing.
what I'm trying to convince Carrie, my girlfriend, to do for Halloween couples costume.
Oh,
Be
yeah.
the blue barracudas.
Sick. All right. Well, yeah, that's definitely. Yeah, I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion because that may just be truth.
It is.
I don't
true.
know. I mean,
Fucking listen to that song.
Truth
It
or dare, there you go.
Slaps.
All
Truth or dare.
right, so my first unpopular opinion is that the Irish mob is underrated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do we all agree? It says it's not unpopular.
I love The Departed.
yeah. So
And that was with what's his name, Bulger.
no. So it was based
that was
off Whitey
based on the
Bulger.
film. Whitey
So-
Bulger, that's his
yeah.
name.
So Whitey Bulger is
That movie with
just,
Johnny Depp was fucking weird.
black something.
Yeah.
That was a great movie.
Black Sheep.
No, it wasn't Black Sheep.
Pretty sure David Spade's in it.
Yep. No, so I think the Irish mob is underrated. That they don't get enough play, man. There's a lot of stuff that they did with,
Potatoes. I could say it.
well,
Go ahead.
Irish,
We'll
yeah. I think
we'll get a call to come to the hospital and check out the tag on your toe later.
yeah. I just think that that. Like, I don't know, man. I think that it's just not talked about enough. I think there's a lot of international dealings that they were involved with. They also did a lot of dirty work for the Italian mob that everyone just like attributes to the Italian mob, and they don't get the credit, man. I think it's an interesting side of American history that's not like showcased enough.
My whole family's Irish, like way back.
But like from Kentucky,
yeah, that's what I'm trying to
and
say.
you guys have been here since like the 1600s.
I'm just trying to say, like, I've never heard one story about the Irish mob.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
because
the 16 fucking
because
hundreds.
because like the Irish mob was a 20th century thing, and that it was like in the Northeast, like obviously Boston, Whitey Bulger and that whole thing. Did you see the documentary on that they came out with like a few years ago?
with Johnny Depp.
No, it's a documentary, not a fucking.
Yes, I have though.
Have you seen
Yeah.
it? Okay, now this is a crazy situation, right? Because they're going through like all these. It's basically like just talking about like him being on like in prison and on trial for all the stuff that he's done,
Yeah.
and like
He's a bad person.
And they ended up catching him in California, right?
yes,
Yeah, that's
he was on
right.
the run for a long time. So,
Yep.
was it Mexico?
I think they caught him in California renting an apartment.
You're thinking
Okay.
about Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
No,
He
and
got
so-
his eyes taken out.
Yeah. Okay. So
Antonio Banderas.
but so what happened was like
They shot machine guns out of their guitars.
They were talking about like all the people that were like affected growing up in that area by Whitey Bulger and all that stuff, and so one of the witnesses for that trial, like he ends up like while they're filming the documentary, he ends up dead.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Wow.
And like the guy that they were like interviewing, like the main guy, like he was like this is like one of his best friends or whatever, and he's like you see them make the phone call, and he gets a call. This dude like ends up dead,
Oh
and
shit.
he's like he's like they fucking got him.
Oh,
This
no.
guy's is like Whitey Bulger's been like out of the picture for like 40 years, and and like somehow.
So he's not that out of the picture.
He's not out of the picture, man. And
not
it's
that
like
out of the picture.
He's not dead yet.
he's in prison right now.
Oh, he's in prison.
But you know, there's a whole thing where he was like an informant, right? It's basically if you watched the Departed, it's a very much in line with the Whitey Bulger story.
Yeah, because he was kind of in it and everything too. I
Yeah,
remember.
but like
That's a
Whitey
good
Bulger
movie.
talks about how he's not an informant and how he was giving him like bad information and this and that. But it's a very interesting side of the underworld that's not talked about as much, because obviously the Italian mob had, you know, like
Great food. We talked about this.
yeah,
And the
and
Irish do not, and that's every single Scorsese movie is
no, well,
talking
it's
about
also like
them
just the influence in
cutting
politics
garlic in
and,
prison.
You know, the Italian mob obviously infiltrated society on a much deeper level than the Irish mob did.
Yeah.
But it's just like there's still an interesting history there that I don't think is fully explored.
I'm gonna look into it. I'm gonna look into my culture.
Look into it.
All right,
right.
number 2. Oh, this is a great one. Amazon should open a church to really stop paying taxes.
Oh shit!
Can you
man.
imagine a church on every corner, and you can pick up all
Jeez.
your fucking one-day shipping right there?
That's a good one.
Go there on a Sunday, and Jeff Bezos never has to pay taxes again. Not
Well,
that he has, was the joke.
Is Jeff Bezos not paying taxes, or is Amazon not paying taxes?
Jeff Bezos doesn't pay taxes.
He doesn't pay taxes.
No, he just
You know
goes
that
and
for a
floats in
fact?
space and wears a cowboy hat for no fucking reason.
You know that
and
Jeff
then does
Bezos-
interviews in a flight suit.
You know that Jeff Bezos.
and then
pays-
says thank you to all of his employees
You know-
to say
Thanks for
thank
sending
you
me
for
into space."
letting me
No.
go to space.
Do you know for
that fucker?
Do you know that Jeff Bezos doesn't pay taxes, or you think, or are you conflating Jeff Bezos with being Amazon? These are two different entities, right? Amazon's a company that doesn't pay taxes. Jeff
okay.
Bezos is an individual who takes income from
Oh,
Amazon.
that's right, because he stepped down from CEO, so he has nothing to do with Amazon.
Doesn't
anymore.
matter. Even when he was CEO of Amazon,
Yeah.
his income is
Yeah.
a separate entity than Amazon's income, right?
That's interesting because it seems like all of his income would come from Amazon.
It
but-
does. Well, no, he probably had all kinds of investments. It's irrelevant. The point being that you're making a claim.
relevant.
No, it's not relevant, because the point is that you're trying to express that this guy
Yeah.
doesn't pay taxes.
He doesn't.
Because you're saying his company doesn't pay taxes.
Yeah.
Those are different entities,
No.
right? Okay, so do you know that Jeff Bezos doesn't pay taxes?
Yeah.
Or are you saying that Amazon doesn't pay
We're
taxes
real
and
close.
saying
We're
that
going to space next fucking month.
Okay.
Saturn, dude. Here we go.
Anyways.
Elon says Mars. I say Saturn, boy.
Yeah, dude. What are
Let's
we
go,
doing?
dude.
Go to a gas planet.
Yeah.
Gas is through the roof right now. Let's mine Saturn.
Let's go, dude. Let's go to Saturn. Get me on the rings, bro. Get
Yeah.
me on the rings.
All right, so for me, embracing modern trends should not be taboo.
Like what kind of trends?
Yeah, what
I
are you
like
talking
it.
about?
Okay, progression. I hear progression. Where are we going?
Just, I mean, like.
What pops to your mind when you say when
well,
you wrote
I mean, more.
Digital modeling for guitar?
Yeah,
or-
totally. That's probably
That's one.
That's probably,
Yeah,
that's
dude,
probably
let's
one,
go.
one of the first things. Also, you know, social media trends and
Tattoo
Yeah.
removal.
how
That laser therapy is expensive, and it's at least 7 or 8 sessions,
you know,
Really? Well,
healthy
depending on it.
Let's
Depending.
start
Healthy-
the GoFundMe right now.
healthy dieting and losing weight and all those things as well.
I feel really attacked right now.
Well, you know, don't have any fear, bro. That's all I'm saying.
I am who I am.
So
It's just
I
trying to
didn't-
be the best Anton he can be.
I didn't choose this.
yeah,
Is
no,
all I'm saying.
Chose you.
And
you
secondly,
kind of did choose it.
I can lose weight.
yeah.
Can't lose that
There we
fucking
go. Yeah,
tattoo.
let's repeat the same joke you told a couple weeks ago.
Well, it
Um,
slays. So.
Wah, wah.
That's a good joke. So whether it's technology or social media trends, I think there was like a stat that came out recently where a lot of it was like 70 or 80% of new music consumers are finding their music through TikTok. which is like insane, right? But it's like I don't think that people should be resistant to modern trends, whether it's like technology or whether it doesn't matter what it is.
I think everybody's on your side,
money,
but the Amish at this point. Though.
I disagree, man. I think there's a lot of people that are
stuck in their ways.
Stuck in their way, not just like they're just resistant to progress. Whether however it looks, it could be digital currency. It can be technology for music. It can be technology for marketing. It can be like anything. It's just I think that we should be looking at modern trends and trying to figure out how to utilize them in a way that's positive.
Well, there's an existential crisis with adoption, and what I think that comes down to is, and I don't think you're wrong. I think the issue is with the rate new mechanisms or new products are released, right? Which is a byproduct essentially of really good creativity, right? It's really hard to get adoption up because as soon as somebody gets comfortable on a method, you have to learn a new method.
Yeah, totally.
And the investment up front for continually embracing new methods requires a lot of overhead that a lot of people don't, quite frankly, probably have.
Sure.
And how do
right
you?
There.
Yeah, I agree. So I think the challenge is definitely there, and I agree with you. Yeah, there's some resistance there, but I think it's like how do you discover and then overcome the overhead of replatforming your awareness.
And that's
interesting. That's a whole subject. I think that's a whole podcast.
And I think that's something that as an individual, I mean, like I struggle with it, as we just talked about earlier with my resistance to adopting modern technology with music, like with gear, right? It's like it's not so much like that I don't agree with it. It's just like I don't have the bandwidth to take on like a new thing.
I see that with social media stuff.
Yeah,
when I was a kid, when I was a kid,
we had MySpace.
Shit, I gotta watch. Yeah, it was like you couldn't get on Facebook. Little known fact for the folks that have come to Facebook after this point. You couldn't get on Facebook without an edu email.
Yeah, if you didn't go to college, you couldn't get on.
Right.
You could not even get an account unless you were registered at whatever .edu.
Right.
And so I still think of Facebook as this massive social media platform, which of course it is. But if you listen to different podcasts that are talking about music or marketing or whatever, and that's one of the last places people stop now, right? It's TikTok and Instagram, dude.
Yeah.
And Facebook is kind of in the dust for the geezers.
Yeah.
And for me, it's hard to even still think in that way, right? So, and it's because it's hard for me to re-platform, and it's a bandwidth issue, I think, for me at least, right? I've got no resistance to new tech, but even with the equipment, like you were saying, it's a good point, and I think finding that root cause and how to address it in all these sectors is probably a really good episode.
Yeah.
And finding someone who's really savvy on kind of how that stuff works, find a freaking UX designer who solely deals with marketing and user adoption of platforms.
Yeah.
To give you that'd be a really cool guest. I can point some people your way actually.
Can you really?
Absolutely.
That'd be amazing.
That may be willing to do it. But yeah, I mean those are huge challenges, and I think it probably root cause comes back to that. It's bandwidth and adoption, and then even the awareness to adopt, and then the overhead to adopt. I mean, there's so many stages to
there's so many stages
adoption.
to it, and I think that responsibility falls on the whoever has to use those things or whoever has to overcome those things. But the point still remains that you can't let the obstacles stop you from adopting the new trends.
They have to find the value in those steps.
Can you give me an example of people that are not doing this? What is something that's so out there that people are just no, I won't do it?
I mean,
besides the social media stuff.
Well, I mean, we just talked. I mean, I literally made a post on Facebook talking about outdated platforms. But I made a post on Facebook a few months back where I was asking something about I was asking about plugins for guitar, right? I was like who's using what plugins for guitar on through Logic or whatever that's gonna help me get so and so tone or whatever. And I had literally several people comment on my post saying oh, fucking just get a wall of fucking Marshalls, just do this, just fucking good old fashioned. I'm just okay, well, I'm obviously not talking to these people, right? Because I'm not looking for the antiquated, already done version of it. I'm looking for a way that I can do it in my apartment.
Well, that's also not what you were asking for. I just found this badass plugin for I'm working on an acoustic album
Yeah.
just as a side project.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the songs are like songwriter or like borderline country themed tunes.
Yeah.
And I just found this awesome plugin for pedal steel because I couldn't find a reliable pedal steel player. I started looking at these virtual instruments and I found a really incredible pedal steel like today.
Really?
And I'm like, cannot wait to go home. So I'm gonna go home and screw with that.
That's the
In
kind
a
of
couple
stuff,
minutes,
man.
I'm like, oh my god, this thing is sick. I didn't even know that was possible.
Bro, that's the kind of stuff. Like so.
Maybe I'm just like so on your side. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just like right there with you.
I think
'cause
you're-
I can't think of anything
You're
that
like,
I'm
no,
like,
I'm
yeah,
on it. I'm on it.
like, what? Yeah, anything new, fucking give me.
Yeah, well, that's kind of your thing when as a keyboard player,
Yeah.
right? It's always like that particular instrument's always like the cutting edge
Yeah.
of modern technology in the music field, but like or software and all that kind of stuff. But like what I was asking the question on Facebook, and I got a bunch of people that were just like totally thought that I was like being crazy by asking for like digital resources. And then the same thing with the social media stuff. We had somebody on recently who basically, when I was talking about TikTok on here, being a viable way to get your music heard, and they were like, like none of the bands I'm involved with are for like, they're definitely not going to do that. Now I was like, okay, well, I mean, I just don't understand, but why? If you're trying to do this thing and that's where the new consumers are getting a majority of their music from, why not explore the option? I'm not saying to fully embrace it or do it. Don't be so resistant to the new technology. Don't shut it down, because what you're doing is that you sound like the 40 or 50-year-old people.
Yeah.
When you were 15 trying to do your thing, they're all telling you how what you're doing is fucking dumb. I'm not trying to be that person. Like, I want to be able to embrace new things and be adaptable to the current climate.
That's how I feel. Anybody that's just like, no, I don't like TikTok. I'm like, okay, you don't like fun, I guess. Like, it's like the most amazing thing.
Or
in the world.
you just stop wanting to learn.
Like, I
because
can't.
Like there's a new thing being like presented, and instead of embracing it, you've decided that like that all that there is to be known, and you've decided that this is irrelevant because it doesn't fit within your framework. It's like just try and again, there's an obstacle there that's on the individual to overcome, and however that may be, and rather than just shutting it down because you've decided the obstacle is just not worth it.
Well, does that user have a value there? I mean, that's the thing that ultimately drives it.
Yeah.
It's like, are they trying to get something out of that use case?
Yeah.
I mean, and that comes down to that's what generates market demand, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's that perceived or actual value for the end user. I mean, it's such a personal thing. So you've either got to market to them so that they feel like, hey, there's a perceived value there, or that's the end of it.
Yeah.
How to get people to even evaluate that question? Like I said, I think there's a whole really cool avenue you could go down. I would
For
like
sure.
to see that one.
I would.
like to see that one.
We gotta connect with some of your people there, because I'd love
one.
that.
Yeah, and some of those folks, I mean, I think they got some really cool ideas on that.
Hell
that
yeah.
are much more profound than what I could articulate to you.
I would love. Yeah.
I did a lot of research
yesterday
yesterday and today about TikTok, and there's a lot of stipulations about making money out that thing. It's ridiculous.
Sure.
You have to have 10,000 followers before they give you a dime.
The same thing with YouTube, with 1,000 followers and
ridiculous.
4,000 hours watched.
How many?
1,000 subscribers.
So times
Hold
that
on.
by 10.
No, but YouTube. But the problem, the struggle with YouTube is that YouTube is a much less interactive platform, right, or proactive platform. So users are not actively engaging with things like they would on TikTok or Instagram, right?
I think it's great.
So 1,000 subscribers on YouTube could be the equivalent of 10,000 followers on TikTok or Instagram,
true.
right? But then also you need 4,000 hours watched. So you can have 1,000 subscribers, but you only have.
You need to have 100,000 views on TikTok as well.
Okay, that's much easier to do though on TikTok than it is on YouTube.
Yeah, I guess everybody would have to watch it 100 times then, right?
Which is super easy. If you think about I've got a couple videos on TikTok that have done like well over 1,000 views,
No
right?
kidding, really?
But like I don't have that many followers on there. But it's just like,
Yeah.
but that's how that's how easy it is to get the views on TikTok. So it's a much easier platform to monetize than YouTube is, because it's
so
a much more
fast.
proactive platform.
All right, this is my last one. You
Okay.
gotta come up with yours.
I already got it.
You already got it?
Yeah.
All right. This one is just funny. I don't trust anyone who is marginally good at ping pong and has practiced to do so.
Ooh.
Fucking what are you doing? Like this?
Not a fan of the table tennis.
No, by any means.
It's an
I'm
Olympic
just-
sport.
That's fine. That it is an Olympic sport, but also so is like, walking is an Olympic sport.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
Walking.
Do you want to fight me? Or you want to bet on this? Yes, I think it's a 5K walk. You're not allowed to raise your knees at all, and you have to stay like that. And it is the best thing to fall asleep to. Watch Olympic walking, and it is 100% a sport, and
I
it
didn't
is
know that.
the most awkward sport to watch. But anyways, going back to ping pong, yeah, just no, like don't be good. Don't be good at ping pong.
I think it's a cool sport.
No,
I'm into it.
it's not, and that's how you
No
know
bueno,
it's
huh?
not, because he thinks it's a cool sport.
Oh, jeez.
Because he
Oh,
knows nothing
jeez.
about sports.
Well, that's why it's an unpopular opinion.
It's
Yeah.
very unpopular opinion, but yeah, if you're really good at ping pong and you practice to be good at ping pong, I don't trust you.
All right.
I just love the way that whole thing is teed up.
Yeah.
That's
I
freaking
just
awesome.
don't. I don't fucking trust you. I don't know what your motive is, and I don't want to be around you alone at all.
Jeez.
Okay.
Jeez.
I'm not a big fan of steak.
Steak, what?
Ooh.
Just steak.
No, well, there's like 100 different cuts. What are you
All of
talking
them.
about? All of them?
Just
not a
in
big-
general.
just
Just
in
in
general.
the experience
Wow.
of steak.
Yeah,
Oh,
it doesn't do it for me. Like
Wow,
I mean,
alright.
it's not that I dislike
Better
it.
question. What's better than steak then?
Oh, basically everything. I'll take a good burger over a steak any day
That
of
is
the week.
steak.
Yeah, it's
He's saying the
ground
experience
beef.
of steak.
Like there's steak and there's ground beef, right? The
And that's
different
hard for me
things.
because I just freaking love a steak.
No, yeah, steak's the best.
I don't dislike steak. I will eat it if it's
Like-
presented
like
to me.
skirt
That's a great
steak.
one.
Skirt
This is a
steak
good one. This is a
or
good one.
filet mignon, whatever it is. I can appreciate it. I will eat it if it's in front of me.
Wow.
But like people like go out of their way for a good steak dinner. I am not that guy.
I will
For
do
You
it.
sure.
shouldn't go
I will
out
do
of your
it.
way for a good steak dinner. You can just make a good one at home.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yep.
Without a fucking doubt. Just
My
like Gordon
uncle
Ramsay, you can
I
only
love,
have to have
I love
a grill.
you, Henry. My uncle used to fucking nuke those things, put them right in the fucking
Oh
microwave.
Oh no, I
You
don't
can't
know.
do that.
Okay.
That's like.
Well, no wonder
that's
you
that
don't like
Cuban
steak.
shit, bro.
I don't like
Jesus.
people that-
No, but I've gone to steakhouses.
Jeez.
I've gone to steakhouses and I've done the thing. It's very good. Don't get me wrong, but like.
No, you need to have
but-
a
but-
slow
but
cooked
no,
charcoal fucking steak. man.
Chelsea's very into steaks. She
Yeah.
loves steaks.
Yeah.
So whenever we have like an anniversary, or whatever it might be, like we go to like a steakhouse or do something like that.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where like I enjoy it, right?
How'd you feel
but like
about-
I don't like. If it wasn't for her wanting to do that, I would for sure not go to a steakhouse.
How does she
I just
Understood.
don't care.
Understood.
You know
How
what I
does
mean?
she feel about potatoes?
She's Irish.
Connolly? That's very close
Yeah.
to Bagley. Yeah, it's a little bit Irish.
I love
think.
potatoes too,
Steak
though.
and potatoes.
I'm a
That's
big,
it, bud.
I'm a big potatoes guy.
Oh, my
also.
favorite is like a big bone-in pork chop. That's
Yeah.
like my number
pork
one.
chop, bro.
That's,
I'm Cuban.
I love steak, but I'm telling you, if you give me the best steak on earth versus like a bone-in fucking center cut pork chop, gone, dude. Pork chop all day.
Can I tell you right now that
yeah.
I'm Cuban and we grew up eating fucking pork chops, bro. I fucking hate pork chops.
Oh man,
I
I love it. Oh, I
love-
cannot stand it. I love it.
love pork. I love
love it,
shredded
dude.
pork. You give me a pork chop, I'm like, you've ruined this pork.
Oh no,
Like,
I
it's
love
our-
it, man. I can't stand it.
Really?
Yeah, that's like my number one. Like if I go to a place
Yeah.
Like barbecue?
and it's also like
No.
a straight up pork chop. Here's the thing, I think it's one of the most often overlooked items on a menu. So if I go to like a fine dining restaurant, especially someplace that's supposed to be like a nice place, I order their pork chop and I completely judge them by the that's shitty, but I completely judge them by the pork chop. Like how do they do? Because if you deliver on a pork chop, you got it down
You like them thin or thick?
thick. Like I'm
Thick.
talking, they're like thicker than a ribeye.
Oh no
I'm
shit.
talking like bone-in big pork chops.
It's like the
cooked
Lunchables
medium.
of steak,
I-
man. I don't like pork chops.
I love
I've
it,
never
dude.
I've never had a pork chop that thick before. Honestly,
Seriously,
the one,
oh man,
we used to
gotta-
get them
we gotta
like
cook dinner.
we used to get like thinner pork chops.
I know what you're
when was
talking
a
about.
kid.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Not into that at all. It just tastes like you're saying. It tastes like kind of like cheap, like overly seasoned
chewy.
steak.
That's what I'm saying. You gotta look for
Yeah.
a thick bone-in.
Yeah.
It'll drive you wild.
I haven't.
I
Then
love
I don't know. I've never had that before.
Yeah, but
So-
what the
But steak,
the
but-
original statement was
I don't
Not
like.
that
I'm
into
not,
steak.
I'm not a big fan of steak.
you're not a big fan of steak.
I mean, I'll eat it.
Yeah.
But like people love steak.
it's my favorite.
I just like it. I don't get that at all.
I don't really like steak tacos though.
Yeah, I don't do steak
Anyways.
tacos.
Got one?
All right, here's mine.
All right.
I was thinking about it while you guys were talking it through.
Yeah.
I think one of the best artists of the last 5 to 10 years, who I think it is liked, but I think it's still severely underrated, is Brendan Urie.
I know that name. Why don't?
Panic at the Disco.
Yeah. That's right.
might be one of the most phenomenal artists of our time, and maybe the generation right after us.
I've got a great story about him actually. I was dating a girl and she left me because she got catfished by somebody who said that he was Brendan Urie.
No way.
That's awesome.
Turns out it wasn't.
Well, surprise, surprise.
No way.
Yeah, I think he's out of control. Awesome. I think the writing, the band is sick. I never really listened to them very much, and I got exposed to them, and I just said, "Oh my God, who's writing these melodies and these hooks, and who's got like this concept of production?" And his vocal range is insane. And
He's a good singer, yeah.
yeah, and I'm like, wow.
Did
It's
he
not
do-
even my number one kind of flavor of music, but I just feel like it's kind of like undeniably
It's very
hip.
poppy.
Yeah, it's
You'll
like
have to
undeniable.
you'll have to
It's
send me
like
some stuff because I've never listened to any.
What?
I've heard like maybe 2 or 3 Panic at the
Yeah, I was
Disco
gonna ask,
songs.
like, did he do anything after Panic at the Disco?
I mean, he's still doing that group.
Yeah. Oh shit, they're still together. Fuck.
Well, and I think that the group has changed a lot. So I kind of started reading about like the evolution of that group and him and all that kind of stuff, and kind of just checking it out. And it's kind of interesting story, but I think he's like he's not underrated because he's a very big pop icon, I guess. But I just think, whoa, what's going on there musically is pretty intense.
Well, that's-
Even if it's not my specific favorite genre, I just recognize it's kind of like
Like
now,
they-
I love funk and that kind of stuff, right? So, like, Bruno Mars is even more easily undeniable to me as like just an amazing pop icon. And
yeah,
Justin
he
Timberlake
definitely gets
too.
the but those guys both get the credit.
But they get the
deserve.
credit. Brendan
Yeah.
Urie, I mean, he gets some credit. He's done some cool things and got like some big follow-up opportunities. Like he ended up doing the soundtrack for the Frozen 2, the big like
Oh,
Frozen
okay.
movie.
Yeah.
He did like the one of the major songs on there, how they usually like have the actual motion picture song where like the lead character sings a song and then they have like a pop icon come behind it and like do a
Right.
version of the song.
Yeah.
And Panic at the Disco did their follow-up like on the soundtrack, which was awesome. So I think they get some that's a pretty big nod on a mega movie like that. So, I mean,
Sure.
they're not overlooked, but I think for what they're doing, I think it's just absolutely insanely good.
Well, there's I mean, I kind of feel the same way about, and Billy's gonna hate this one, but I kind of feel the same way about Dave Matthews or something
Okay.
like that. It's where it's like they get the notoriety they deserve probably on the surface, but then there's like this this level underneath that where people are like, fuck Dave Matthews, like
The layer of snobbery in there.
yeah, like
Well, yeah,
what's
but that's
it-
because there's some band out there from Vermont that
bro.
just slams it. But I know what you're saying.
Who though?
Well, I think in the retrospect of all, yeah,
The band from Vermont.
the band from Vermont.
You're kidding,
boys.
right? Musician, everybody, and a guitarist.
So,
It's the Fish.
Yeah.
oh, Fish. That's what I
that
thought you were
fishy
talking about.
band. Yeah.
I think when you stack,
I mean,
stack
bro,
all
you
these different
can't-
bands up,
they're
he's
not
got
really
a softer
comparable.
side. No, I exactly.
You know
That's
what
what
I
I'm saying.
mean?
You get this layering of like different elements that people cling to.
Yeah.
That you got to recognize like the different pieces of it that resonate with other folks. Like we were talking earlier about different music people like. I hear you. I think that band is incredible. Look at the band behind the guy too.
Yeah, Carter
Right?
Beauford on drums.
Yeah,
I mean,
come on, man.
It's like
You know their names too.
I mean,
Carter Beauford.
I would say you're gonna have a hard time denying him. That's pretty much
he's a
it.
fucking. I mean, he's a legend, man.
Yeah,
like,
the
he's,
band. Dave
plays
Matthews
like
band's awful.
Victor Wooten.
I mean, just listen to him
So-
play. Period. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like he's done all kinds of stuff, man. But it's like when I hear the level, because like also they've kind of aligned them. They're like jam band adjacent, right? But like, they're not really a jam band. They have like these moments, but they've somehow gotten like categorized into that same thing. But like they're
Because they were an organic growth band,
right,
right? They grew on their own legs.
right.
I mean, I don't know. I think it is a jam band. It's just a different flavor. The kind of jam band that, Widespread Panic might be, or that Fish is another kind of jam band, and they are a different kind of jam
They're a
band.
different kind of
it's
jam
okay
band.
just to be different. It's okay just to be different. I
But
mean,
I just think that.
but they're pretty huge. I don't know. They
No,
they may be a net grosser. What's their net gross on?
They're one of
against
the
somebody
high.
like I'll say I don't
they're,
know.
They're like one of the top 10 highest grossing live bands.
I'll say they
in
get
the
their
world.
due. They get
But
their due.
They do, but like there's also this irrational hatred for them also that I don't really see coming.
Well, that's
from,
driven by
Nothing against
success.
Dave Matthews at all. I just hate his music.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not talking about him as a person. I'm talking about the music.
Okay. Yeah,
Where I'm
it's
saying
music,
like
though. That's
like there's-
understandable, right? Why everyone hates it.
No, it's because it's really it's quite prolific
Bad.
songwriting actually,
No.
and like there's really I mean there's so much stuff going on there.
I don't know. I don't not like
Too
his-
much stuff you
I
may
don't not
say.
like his music.
Well, there's like it's like when you look at people that there's like this culture in Fish, right? And like people love Fish. People don't always love Fish, but it's like it's agreed that like Fish is like one of the top jam
Well, they get
bands
shit
in
on
the
all
world.
the time too. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean,
But I've just noticed a certain level of hate. Like there's like a passionate hatred towards
okay.
Dave Matthews that I think exists that I haven't seen necessarily with like with the Dead community or like the Fish community or the Widespread community. Like there's like this thing that happens where you say Dave Matthews, like, oh, well you're a fucking idiot if you like them.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know, man. Like it's some pretty top-notch songwriting actually, and that's just been my experience. Maybe I'm wrong, but just
But
to
everybody's wrong sometimes.
just to kind of add on to what you're talking about.
He's lost it.
oh,
Just to add on to what you're saying about musicians that get their due, but also don't quite get their due. You know what I mean?
that falls into the same bucket.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
don't think. Yeah, you're right. Nobody feels sorry for Dave Matthews.
yeah, nobody feels sorry.
No, nobody should feel sorry for Dave.
I don't think
Matthews.
Dave Matthews feels sorry
Except
for
for
Dave
his
Matthews.
reflection. Of course
he
I think he's
doesn't.
quite alright with the way things have
The
turned out.
dude's chilling, okay? Like people love his music and he can do whatever he wants. That's like the dream. But it's just like I'm just saying that people that I've just noticed that there's a certain kind of like disdain that comes with his name that
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily happen with other jam bands like
Well, that's
that.
because his name is
yeah. Anyways.
Dave Matthews.
Yeah, we got it.
Not
Okay.
Dave Matthew. It's
yeah.
Dave Matthews' band.
Yeah, we got it, bro. We got it. All right, well, Ben, thanks so much for being on the show
Yeah.
again, man. This
Hey.
has been
Number
a lot of fun.
50.
Number 50, Big 5-0.
Bro.
Big 5-0. Pleasure.
Not
Be
only
here.
was it number 50, but it was our first returning guest. So
hey,
it's like
you.
yeah,
That's
man.
a pretty good run. And
Yeah.
hey, thank you again for having me.
Absolutely.
And go check. I'd be remiss if I didn't say go check out everything that Side Hustle's doing. Great guys doing good stuff.
Make sure you
Thank
check out
you.
everything that Widgeon's doing too, because
Yeah.
that single is dope, and I can't wait. I can't wait to hear
Thanks,
the
man.
rest
Yeah,
of
we'll
the
get
rest of
more to be more coming soon.
Yeah.
Right. So TBD on this release, but it's coming soon.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, thank you.
Hell yeah, man.
We're excited.
I'll catch you later. Adios, amigos.
See you later.
Adios.